Episode 10 for June 2010. Wait a minute. I'm not the host.
Spider-Man does whatever a spider can.
Hulk! Smash!
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Amazing Spider-Man Classics. We have reached episode number 10, double digits for June. Hooray! We have with us tonight Mr. Joshua Bertoni. Say hi, Josh.
Heyo.
Donovan Grant is also here.
Hiya, hiya.
And our special co-host for this episode, this man hosts one of the biggest sites on the internet for his favorite comic book character. So I bring you from the Green Lantern crawl space, Mr. Brad Douglas.
Hitting right below the belt off the top. Nice. No, thank you, John, for having me on. It ought to be fun.
We did also want to have Michael Bailey. I said last time that we would have him with us today, but he hasn't quite shown up to the talking table yet. Wait, hold on one second. My dog's coming in. Woof. What's that, girl? Woof, woof. Mike fell down a well? Woof. Well, I'm trying to do a podcast here. Can you just go tell Timmy? Woof, woof. Good girl. Thanks. I do want to say, Brad, thank you so much for being with us and also for letting us use your site as part of our way of getting listeners on the show. Without that, we would not nearly have the audience that we have. So thank you very much.
You're using me? What? Come on now. No, it's a pleasure, dude. I've been listening to your show. I enjoy the heck out of it.
I am having a blast making it. A lot more fun than I thought I would have. I expected to enjoy it, but these guys here, Josh and Donovan, they are fun to work with, and every co-host we've had so far has been hilarious on the show, so it's been great.
And it's fun to go reread these things. I haven't read the issues we're going to review today in, I would say, at least 20 years. Maybe 15. It's been a long time.
It's probably been a year for me because I read them to my daughter about a year ago, but before that, it'd probably been the late 80s, early 90s since I read them last. So, yeah.
Sweet.
Also want to extend thank yous to Michael Bailey and Scott Gardner for just playing the heck out of the promo for this show on their own podcasts, all of which are very good. So if you're listening to this, I strongly urge you, if you haven't, to go check out Views from the Long Box, From Crisis to Crisis, and the Two True Freaks family of podcasts, which includes Back to the Bins and Tales of the Justice Society of America. Those are all excellent. We're going to be reading your emails next time. So if you haven't written in and you want to, it's not too late to be read on the air this month. And unless you folks have something else, we can dive right into the issues.
Hit it.
So,
Hit it like it owes you money, John.
So we have Amazing Spider-Man number 14, which was released on April 9th, 1964. How old were you then, Brad? Like 7, 8?
Negative 11. 1964. I was born in 75.
Okay. I was 79, so we're actually pretty close in age. That's pretty cool.
There you
go. Had a cover date of July. The keen fan may note there was a Spidey guest appearance a week earlier in Tales to Astonish 57. We will be covering that issue next episode. So for now, we are going to look at the very first appearance of Spider-Man's grand nemesis, B.J. Cosmogian.
and some assorted others that we don't want to talk about.
No, this is the big Green Goblin first appearance, and I had no clue who the Green Goblin was when I read this, because I didn't know Spider-Man except for the first 20 issues. So this was actually when I found out later that Green Goblin became his big continuing nemesis for so many years. I was kind of surprised.
Now, how'd you read it for the first time, John? Did you read it in Marvel Tales like I did?
There were 3 little paperbacks that Marvel did that contained the first 20 issues. They were published in the late 70s. I got a hold of them when I was around 6, or younger, so it was early 80s, and that was all the Spidey I had until I picked up Amazing 341 in late 1990, where he went powerless.
Wow.
So those first 20 issues I probably read 20 or 30 times growing up as a kid.
Nice. I can say I picked this one off the spinner rack back in the 80s with the Marvel Tales, because I was like, oh, the Hulk is in it? My 2 favorite characters. So.
All right. Yeah, the Hulk's on the cover right there, big and powerful.
Yup.
That's pretty
So
cool.
are the enforcers, and they seem to think that like kids are gonna like look at it and be like, oh my god, oh I've been tripping too much LSD. I'm seeing things. No, you're not seeing things. Those really are the evil enforcers. Back again to gang up on, which is what it says on the cover, by the way. Like as if Stanley's like, oh I gotta say something, or these kids are gonna think that they're tripping acid here. I mean,
like that was that was ever a worry in the 60s.
Right.
Like, 'cause
We don't do that until issue 98.
And it's the son of the man on the cover.
Exactly.
Oh,
What do you have in
it all
front of
goes
you there,
down.
Brad? Do you have the Marvel Tales, or what do you have?
I have Marvel Marvel Masterworks Volume 2 that I bought in 1988. It's the first print, and I was thumbing through this book, which I haven't opened in a long time. And inside, I found a bookmark that I haven't seen in a good 20 years. The
Holy
Marvel
crap.
Masterworks, the Marks of Excellence. And on the back, it says the original comics that made Marvel great, presented spectacular or special hardcover collector's edition. Each volume contains 10 classic comics, and it had the first 4. And the copyright at the very bottom, it says 1988. So I have a very old bookmark that I found inside this book.
That
Okay.
was like the McFarlane days.
Exactly. I remember buying this at probably a convention, I think.
Peter and Mary Jane had just moved in together and everything.
But I have to let you know, I do own a copy of number 14, an original copy.
Ooh.
I do. I don't own 15, and I don't own 13, but I own 1, 3, and 14.
Nice.
I can only imagine the money.
And then I have number 22 to current.
Okay.
Nice.
I was just seeing how the different the cover is, but all my little searches are not turning up roses yet, so I'm just going to the comic book database to look it up.
Oh, you mean
Covers?
Marvel Tales?
Yeah. I just
It
want to
was
see what
actually pretty much the same. I mean, it had him on the cave.
Check
it-
Spider-Man Classics, because I think that they got up to the Green Goblin issue.
I think they did too.
your art, so I was just going to see if
Wasn't it like drawn by Eric Larson or something? Because I have like a Spider-Man Classics where it's like the retelling or like the reprint of the Sandman issue, and that was definitely not Ditko who did that.
I think it's Goblins on the Broomstick, and Spider-Man's kind of climbing up on his glider. That's what I remember of the cover, because I used to read Spider-Man Classics when I was little.
That one didn't
Yep,
last very long.
Nope,
No, it
the Craven issue was the last issue that they did. It's a
Oh,
shame,
yeah.
because it was pretty cool, to have that. I'm looking at these covers right now. I remember these, because this was how I read a lot of those early issues.
So the Marvel Tales cover has the same art, only it's mirrored. So the Green Goblin's flying up from the bottom right, and the caption that
Oh,
has
wow.
the Hulk,
I'm looking at it right now. That is true. It's reversed.
it's a barcode where his face should be.
I've never. I totally remember Marvel Tales having the Hulk on it, but there
Where
you go,
Hulk, but
guys.
his face
Well,
is gone.
Barcode, yeah.
Wow.
Newsstand editions and comic shop editions may have been different for where the barcode was. So maybe your version had the Hulk.
No, I bought this off the spinner rack. So at like a.
Oh, that is cheap. That is cheap as can be.
That is totally mirrored. I'll be.
This hurts my brain.
Why would they reverse it?
That's a good
Well,
question.
maybe
Oh,
maybe
I
there
know.
was some issue with not having the Hulk on the cover, and so that gave them an excuse to take him out by putting in the barcode.
Well, no, they also have to deal with that big giant Spider-Man. Oh no, they still have a Spider-Man head on the cover there, and the logo.
Maybe they just didn't want to get the barcode to cover up the Green Goblin because it's the Green Goblin's first appearance.
But the barcode isn't covering him up on the other cover.
It's replaced.
That's weird.
That's really
Mephisto!
Marvel.
This is the alternate version.
I have like in two separate windows the cover opened, and like the way that I have it set up on my laptop, the two goblins look like they're flying towards each other.
They're still
gonna
trying
wait.
to tickle Spider-Man.
It's Norman and Harry. Oh, spoiler! That's who the Green Goblin is.
No.
Who's Norman? Who's Harry?
Harry Norman. Ugh. So,
It's Sally Averill.
Let's not do that. I
So,
forgot about that.
if we haven't made it clear, what we have on the cover is Spidey hanging from the roof of an underground cavern amidst all the stalactites, with the Green Goblin coming up after him on a mechanical flying broomstick. Not the glider he has later, just a broomstick.
Kind of looks like they're in hell because I have essentials and it's all black and white.
And
so.
I could be wrong, but I don't think the broomstick was seen until Spider-Girl with the Goblin Queen or whatever her name is.
This?
That's when it was brought back. We've seen it in like flashbacks, but no, he
It's-
switched to the glider in issue 17, and he hasn't looked back since.
I would imagine that because I remember when Romita first drew him, he had the glider. So I kind of thought that Ditko gave him the broomstick and Romita gave him the glider. But you said he got the glider before then, okay?
Yeah.
He
Yeah,
had it
the-
in issue 17. That was also when he first got the pumpkin bombs.
The glider's just a much better design, both look-wise and, theoretically, practically. There'd be no way to control it, but theoretically it'd be a better look.
I think it works better on a female because of the witch factor.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah, I'll get you, my pretty.
I'll
So-
get you with my pumpkin bombs.
And your
Aunt
May too.
So we have the captions, wow, just wait till you see the Green Goblin. Does the Green Goblin look cute to you? Does he make you want to smile? Well, forget it. He is the most sinister, most dangerous foe Spidey's ever fought.
It's funny how true that is.
Yeah, they
speaking
say
of-
that every issue, but it's pretty much true here.
Yeah, if you look back to this issue because you want to see the Green Goblin's first appearance, then it's really impressive that they said that the first time. But basically, every villain Spidey was facing was being branded as his most sinister, dangerous
The
foe.
Tinkerer forgets.
They say the same thing with Kraven next issue, which is weird because now like Kraven's whole family is, out to get him.
Yeah.
Well, that's just how Stan Lee rolls.
Yeah, really.
In the background in the cavern are our beloved Ox, Montana, and Fancy Dan, really tiny with a big red arrow pointing to them with the caption that Josh read earlier. No, you're not seeing things. And there's an
Oh,
insect.
thank God! I thought I was. I'm like, does anyone else see the Quick, guys, does anyone else see the enforcers on this?
I
cover?
think I see the
Anyone?
enforcers, unless we're both tripping. Those are really the enforcers there.
Oh my God!
I think I'm just high.
Well,
I'm seeing green goblins with fire fingers. It's crazy.
and there's an insect guest starring none other than that rampaging powerhouse.
Hulk! Smash!
With his infamous chest hair.
He's got.
You can't
Oh,
see
yeah.
it. You can't see it on there, but inside the story, he has his Charlie Brown chest hair. You know how Charlie Brown has like
Charlie Brown.
three.
I was gonna say Charlie Brown has chest hair.
No, Charlie Brown's head has like
Oh,
three
I got you. I
strands
got
of hair, and on the Hulk, he has the same scheme.
I was about to say puberty hit Charlie Brown hard. Hulk kind of has Frankenstein head going on the cover.
It's true.
That's true. Yeah, I remember a lot. I've seen a lot of Hulk, early Hulk images, and he looks like just a fat, muscular Frankenstein.
The Hulk goes through a lot of changes before he actually settles into what we think of as the Hulk. He is not the retarded character that we think of as the Hulk in this. He's big.
He's a little smarter.
But I really like this cover. This is a very awesome Ditko all the way at his finest cover. I really enjoy it.
It's a nice Spider-Man pose. I kind of like. I mean, he's not really doing anything spidery, but just like clinging to a wall. But I like the articulation he gives in his fingers and his joints and everything. It's kind of hard to explain, but I kind of like how it looks.
So, opening splash has the Green Goblin flying by on his broomstick, but Spidey can't reach him because a big smoke blast has just gone off, knocking him back, and we get our title, The Grotesque Adventure of the Green Goblin.
And how grotesque it is, Hollywood. Some say Hollywood.
That's actually like the reason why the smoke's keeping him back. It's actually the monster from Lost.
Yes, this is
monster.
the Lock Monster.
Nice.
Only the Merry Marvel madmen could have dreamed him up. Here's
That's
how
right.
it happened. The gang at the bullpen said, let's give our fans the greatest 12 cents worth we can. Let's get a really different villain. Bunch of colorful henchmen for him, and let's even add a great guest star. So we did. And here's
I
the
love
result.
Stan Lee.
Written by
So
Stan
awesome.
Lee, the poor man's Shakespeare, illustrated by Steve Ditko, the poor man's Da Vinci, and lettered by Art Simek, the poor man's rich man.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
My daughter feels very, very sorry for Art Simek and Sam Rosen because they always get poked on in the credits. So this is the beginning of that here. We begin in a silent.
Oh, you forgot the notes.
Oh, don't be
'Cause, like,
impatient. The Hulk doesn't appear till later on in the story, but you'll be glad you waited.
Like Stanley's thinking, oh great, I better say something, or kids are gonna read like 5 pages of this, crumple up the book, and say, man, Hulk wasn't even in this story. I'm never reading another Marvel book again.
Little Brad
he's like,
Douglas buys this off the rack because he wants to see Hulk, and there is no Hulk.
I know. They're like, okay, it'll be at the end. Oh man.
I actually got to read this. Oh.
We begin in a silent, shadowy basement laboratory that is soon no longer silent because the man whom we will know as the Green Goblin is putting the finishing touches on his flying broomstick. He puts on his goblin costume and tests it out successfully. And in a sleazy hotel room not far away, I'm wondering just how sleazy this is. Like, did the hired women just leave?
Yeah,
before we get this?
yeah. I was just about to say the Hooters stuff.
Like if this was
Felicia
a movie,
Hardy just had sex in
Oh!
a bedroom in a hotel room with some random masked stranger.
Prices on hotels.
if this was a movie, there'd be like the establishing exterior shot, and like the neon would be half burnt out, and you'd see like a roach, crawling under the door.
There's like Nick Cage and Elizabeth Shue in the next room.
I love Elizabeth.
Okay,
Shue.
nobody got that one, huh?
No, I'm sorry. I missed that movie.
Give you
Okay.
a
That
pretty
was
laugh.
Living in Las Vegas, where she's
By
a
the
hooker
way-
and he's a drug addict. Oh, anyway.
By the way, in that second panel, anyone notice that Goblin says, "I made the control simple enough that there's no chance of a fatal error."
Wah, wah, wah.
That's like, if this was written in a book today, I'd be like, oh god, I get it, foreshadowing, haha. But like, wow, that was put in with no foresight at all. Spoiler alert: he kills himself with his own glider.
Exactly.
Conway!
Foreshadowing.
And 108 issues later.
I never even thought of that. That's awesome.
I also want to smile because he really doesn't know what's going to happen to him.
You're just like
And
imagining,
you know what bugged me about Siege is I think we've seen a couple shots of Norman without his shirt on. He doesn't have that giant scar from the glider either.
Oh man, don't
cosmetic
even start
surgery, fool.
He
Cosmetic
took some
surgery.
super soldier serum and healed up.
Oh, there you go. He duct taped it.
it.
It fixes all.
And I do like my flying contraptions to not have chance of fatal error. You know, non-fatal error I can deal with, but fatal error would be bad.
Right. And can you imagine riding this thing? I mean, seriously? It's got to be
That's
like a large broom.
Yeah.
That's why he changed it, to the glider. He was like, wow, this is
It was rubbing his junk the wrong way.
Norman walks to the breakfast table funny the next day, and Harry's like, hey, Dad, what's wrong? What happened to you? Go away, son. Leave me.
Then he goes out
It's
and
just-
kicks the kid's bike.
It reminds me of the '60s Batman show when the Penguin would fly around on his umbrella, like the same kind of uncomfort. Like why would you design this?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because he's a penguin.
Be excited about it.
So the goblin arrives at our sleazy hotel room to address his new hirelings, the enforcers, fresh from recent jail time. After giving them orders off-panel, he then flies to the plush office of a glamorous Hollywood studio to address BJ Cosmos. BJ!
BJ.
Who is surrounded by yes-men and is looking for an idea for his next big picture. Goblin suggests a movie starring himself, the Enforcers, and Spider-Man, and BJ gets all excited when he starts contemplating whom to cast as Spider-Man. Tobey Maguire? The Goblin promised...
Donald Glover.
Donald Glover.
Tony Curtis.
Oh no, or is it Danny Glover? Who's the guy that they want to play?
Donald.
Spider-Man?
Oh,
I
we're
don't
doing this now. We're gonna talk about this.
I don't think
I'm
they're
getting too
saying-
old for this. No. No, Tony Curtis. That's who he thinks he ought to play.
Yeah, Tony Curtis.
But in
Spider-Man.
Marvel Tales, they change it to Tom Selleck.
Do they really?
And for Tony, we got a Beatles reference in here.
Heck yeah! They
There
give
you
the
go.
Beatles to play Spider-Man.
Which one of the Beatles would be good to play Spider-Man? Would you say?
I think John Lennon, because he kind of had the whole nerd thing going on with the glasses and everything. Paul McCartney's
Now-
too charismatic to be Peter Parker.
Now that's a marriage I wish Mephisto would erase. No, sorry. They broke up the Beatles. Sorry. Anyway,
Oh well.
damn
so
Yoko.
Damn Yoko! So the Goblin promises to BJ to deliver the real McCoy as far as getting Spider-Man on the set. BJ is skeptical, but he goes along with it. And a few days later, Liz Allen, Allan, is fawning over Peter Parker at school. So Flash has to hang around with them too, because evidently he has to be in Peter's presence to keep his girl from, touching him or something. I don't know.
Yeah, when I read this, I because my mind is in the gutter. But when
Yes, it is.
Liz is yelling at Flash, she says, "quote You don't have the equipment for being an egghead." I just thought,
Oh,
Oh,
I'm like, what? What?
That's why they call him
That goes-
Flash.
that
I
goes
mean,
along
come
with that retcon from the Mark Guggenheim story, where where you find out that he got his nickname in the back seat of a car.
Oh.
Nice.
Which
Oh,
I
And
don't
do you
buy
see-
that retcon, because we see them calling him Flash Thompson as a little boy. So what, was he doing that as a little boy too?
He's like Jimmy.
You
from
Weren't you? I was. No, just
Do
kidding.
you see the third panel where the guy is holding the giant iPad?
We've seen him before. Oh yeah! Oh my God!
That's Peter
Well, he
best friend, wireless radio lad. He follows Peter
he-
around, and Peter gets all of his news so he can go off and be Spidey.
Oh, that's wireless. Okay, I got you.
This is the third time we've seen him.
And I have to, when I read the very last panel of this page, I had flashbacks of the Spider-Man 1 movie where he did the catapult and towards the goblin.
I had forgotten he did that. It's been so long since I've seen that movie.
I'm sure Sam Raimi meant that as an homage. I'm absolutely positive that that's what he.
I mean, that stood right out. I didn't even, because I've got the
So-
book open right in front of me looking at it. Yeah.
Yeah.
well,
Is it-
Sam Raimi saw it and he says, okay, it needs less masks. Like he should take his mask off, and
Well, the first movie wasn't that bad about it, but
Yeah.
by the time of the third movie, it was, oh god, never mind.
don't even get me started.
So today, Flash Thompson's T sweatshirt from Amazing Fantasy 15 is dirty, so he's wearing an F shirt instead. And he ribs Parker about being an egghead, so Liz lights into him, saying he'll never measure up to Peter because he doesn't have a brain. And this seems to be like
Measure
a major.
up. Oh.
Oh,
It's so happens, Mr. Flash Thompson, that you couldn't be. You don't have the equipment for being an egghead. And like,
Yeah.
if this was a modern day story, there'd be like girls behind her going, "You go, oh, you tell him."
Snap
And
Namely,
then boy,
you're too dumb. It's the men with brains who run the country, not muscle-bound goops like YOU.
And this
then
needs
the
right.
people behind
Right.
like, oh
Oh no, she didn't.
Liz is right. She sure is. It's like a big revelation to the other kids around him, and the whole group bursts into "If I Only Had a Brain." Oh, I can tell you why. The ocean's near the shore. Anyway.
Refresh me, guys. What did Peter do to make Liz attracted to him? I'm having a I can't remember.
Basically, it was the issue where he was passed out. Like, he was sick and fought Dr. Octopus, and Doc Ock unmasked him. And then when the kids found out, Liz was like really impressed that he did that. And
He's
since
got
then, she's
courage. Okay, that's right.
She's got a
Gotcha.
costume fetish.
She's Felicia's cousin. They grew up
I was
doing
I was just gonna say that. That's hilarious.
kissing.
Wrap
Sex-
yourselves
They're
in,
gonna
folks.
check in
We're
that
for a
sleazy
puppy
hotel.
ride.
together.
Well, look who Liz married.
She's gonna be in Osborne.
Yes. Yeah, the first appearance of Liz's ex-father-in-law. This is
Oh, yeah. This is true.
Spoiler.
So Peter's best friend, Wireless Radio Lad, is walking by, and Peter overhears there's some strange green guy flying over the city, and since school is out for the day, he's going to go check it out as Spider-Man. If this were Ultimate, he'd just ditch his next class and to hell with it. But it's 1964, so cutting class is bad. He finds the Green Goblin broomsticking around like it's his favorite pastime, so what does? He does the safest thing imaginable, i.e. launching himself into the sky with a web catapult so he can knock the Goblin out of the air, and murder him. I want to see like the missing
would have
panel.
saved him a lot of trouble.
It would have.
So if you look at those last two panels, he's riding it with the legs on the side and legs in the front. You see
He
that?
really is
That's kinda-
enjoying it.
Yeah, he's
mean,
just like playing around
how-
up there.
How do you maneuver that thing? I mean, seriously.
like, ooh, this is fun. Ah, look at me. Ooh.
Sheesh.
So I want to see like the missing panel here where after Spider-Man grabs the Green Goblin, like they're both hanging upside down from the broomstick because he's, toppled them over and they're trying to climb back up to right themselves. Green Goblin acts all nice and tells him about the movie idea and how to contact BJ, who happens to be in New York right now. So Spider-Man goes to BJ's hotel and they agree to each other's terms to make the movie, and Spidey does because Spidey now has 50,000 reasons to say yes.
Yeah, because that's a pretty big Hollywood salary, $50,000.
Yeah, to star in a film.
Well, this is in 1964, right? I remember, didn't Goldfinger come out then? And I remember Sean Connery was like the biggest paid star around then. Wasn't that? I would imagine he'd be being paid like $1 million or something.
50 grand would probably be pretty good in 64, I would imagine.
Yeah,
I don't know.
probably.
Especially with 50,000 pounds. That's even more.
50,000 quid.
There you go. And they'll
So-
write the check out to Spider-Man, and he's screwed.
And it's like, without the hyphen, so he actually doesn't get it because it's not his name.
Oh, damn it.
Have you learned nothing since issue 1, fool?
Exactly.
He really has.
Morning at the office of the Daily Bugle, Peter tries to tell something important to Betty. We never find out what this was going to be. But
Yes, we do.
'cause-
He says that he was going to try and tell her about Hollywood before Jonah did.
Oh. Well, goody
That's
for
not-
you then.
Oh,
Nice.
yes.
That's what we call a blooper.
But Jameson comes out of his office and tells Parker about the movie, that he's on assignment to Hollywood to get pictures. And the idea of Peter being surrounded by California girls throws Betty into instant jealousy mode.
California knows how to party.
I was thinking of the Katy Perry song "California Girls."
Look at Jonah's face in the bottom last panel. He's like really not happy about hearing like two teenagers, having like
He
teenage.
says in the next issue, this ain't no soap opera. Like, he really hates it when Peter and Betty bring their crap to the office.
You notice a little artistic mistake where the panel where Spider-Man or Peter has a thumb pointing towards J. Jonah Jameson. His tie is cut off, or is that you
I think
guys
it's
notice?
tucked
behind
in.
the vest.
It's tucked in. No,
Yeah, he has a nerd vest.
Uncle Ben and Aunt May taught him how to dress like a 40-year-old man from the
no.
19th.
Jameson's tie is missing.
Oh, yeah. It's
Oh!
not tucked behind his hand.
Yeah.
Maybe Peter's
Yeah.
actually grabbing it?
I don't know. No, the depth of field is.
You know what this means, John? You need to email Steve Ditko and see if we can get a response.
I will
We
be
got
so
the-
pissed if you get Ditko before me.
That'd be hilarious.
Comprehend his email.
sditko@aol.com. That's how we're gonna get him.
It'll give us like a long and complicated answer that we won't be able
Okay,
to understand.
I see the tie when Peter's pointing at him. I see the top of it. I can't see the bottom, but it can
Right,
be
that's-
covered by Peter's
that's
hand.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
the continuity is ruined. Is that artistic?
This whole
Fisto!
the drain now.
Take a shot.
Betty sees Peter smiling, and she's like, "Oh, you're thinking about other like this man is so whipped. Like he's not even allowed to smile. He's not even allowed to, you look mighty happy, Peter Parker. I suppose you can't wait to meet
My
all
God.
those Hollywood beauties. Oh, that's not why I was smiling, Betty. You know how I feel about
You know what it
you."
reminded me of? Because I told you guys that I just picked up the 9th essential of ASM. It reminded me a lot of Deb Whitman because Deb Whitman was very insecure and everything. So
Yeah. I think Deb Whitman was worse than this, but Betty Brant really, and she even makes a jab about Liz Allen here, and
well, that was funny.
yeah,
I mean,
she's-
they've gone out on a few dates and he kissed her, right? That's all at this point, right?
Hey,
You
Brand.
don't see anybody kiss until the Romita issues where Gwen kisses Flash. It's
No,
a
I
long
thought he
time.
kissed her when the Bugle was destroyed, kind of.
after
Nope,
the
they,
not,
they,
not
they
on the panel.
snuggled.
They didn't kiss on panel? I thought they did.
Did they kiss in Untold
Ditko doesn't like kissing because that's not how
It's
Ditko-
communist, yeah.
It's
What issue is
communist.
that where the Bugle is destroyed and they're sitting behind the desk? What
It's
is that
7.
one?
Issue 7.
Okay.
After the
They
Vulture
didn't-
returns.
They didn't kiss.
It's implied probably like off panel at the end, but we don't actually see it.
Some
Kinda
whole
like
like
Blizzard-
lay
Blizzard
down,
sex.
make out, feel up time is implied, but we don't actually see.
I mean,
Lay
you know,
down,
girl-
make out time.
Matt Murdock and Karen Page didn't kiss. Jean Grey and Scott Summers didn't kiss. Sue
Oh,
Storm
Grey
and Reed
Professor X
Richards.
didn't kiss.
Yeah, like none of the people kissed in those 60s issues.
That's crazy. I totally remember him kissing. But anyway, sorry.
This man's so whipped. He's not even allowed to smile without his girlfriend being like, "Oh, you're smiling. You must be thinking about cheating on me."
This is pre-internet.
Yeah.
Betty,
Real
wait.
Do you know? Did they actually kiss in the Untold Tales issues or no?
I don't remember them actually kissing in Untold Tales because they tried to stay pretty true to the Silver Age. Like,
Okay.
they even had him dress in the blue suit instead of listening to like Walkmans and stuff. But I need to rip some of those open again. But I don't remember any explicit kissing.
And
between Peter
really,
and Betty.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step you, but really would even though they're like teenagers, do you think they would kiss? I mean, because like Peter is like a nerd, and Betty Brant is like she's a specific kind of girl. Do you think that they really would be doing? I mean, I don't care if they did or not, but
I think they
in
would be.
character?
I don't think hormones know time periods. I think they're teenagers. If they went on a date, I would imagine there was kissing involved.
It just happened off panel.
Aunt May has issues with Peter's trip. She just has issues in general. I'm guessing she wasn't as copacetic about his going to Pennsylvania a couple issues back as she acted, because she's talking about the idea of his traipsing around the country is upsetting to her, and the fact that Peter wants to get off the apron strings a little bit is even more upsetting, but she does give her teary-eyed permission. Little tear coming out of Aunt May's eye, so sad.
How long is this adventure? Because would you take a kid out of school to go shoot pictures in Pennsylvania?
No.
Exactly. You try running that past any parent, and they're going to say, "Hell no."
It was worse than the last time because the last time he says, "Actually, I'm going to go to Pennsylvania," and she says, "Okay." And then it's like minutes later, he's on a plane by himself to meet no one that he knows, or except for Betty. And it's like,
Well,
And-
Pennsylvania's
and-
right by New York. Going to Hollywood is a lot scarier than Pennsylvania because Aunt May's probably heard all these horror stories about Hollywood and the prostitutes and the drugs and she can't have her poor innocent Peter get mixed up in that.
like
You know
she
how
did.
fragile he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the little cast of characters in our true-to-life drama are soon assembled on the Cosmos Productions movie lot in Hollywood. Spidey
says
is
that.
impressed with the makeup jobs on the enforcers because they look just like the real guys. Imagine that.
Oh yeah, sucker.
They
Nope.
journey out to a deserted area in frickin' New Mexico, where the movie is to be filmed. And I just want to point out for everyone following along at home, it is a 10-hour drive from Hollywood to the border of New Mexico, and even longer if you want to actually get into the state.
Not on a broomstick.
I don't know exactly where. Can you imagine how Spidey and the villains are passing the time? Like, so Goblin, how's it going? Oh, same old. My kid's getting ready to graduate high
This
school.
is getting really stupid. Like, this is so convoluted. Let's all do this to kill Spider-Man.
What are they going to do all the time? Like reading comics or?
Well, look at the bottom
the-
page, with them, with Goblin, looking at his script. What the heck?
That's
The-
funny.
The plan that they have, they would have had the same result if they just would have ambushed him in New York and hit him over the head with a rock. It would have had the same effect as all of this. All this stuff going to Hollywood, it's just so that they have this 10-second element of surprise.
They
This is
all
the
the
guy who
time,
was in charge of
man,
Hammer and Shield and the entire like Dark Reign event that encapsulated Marvel. This is that same man.
the guy who masterminded the Clone Saga and like kidnapped, and possibly killed Baby May, switched his Aunt May with an act, developed a. This is his plan to destroy. Like you can see him talking to him. So we're gonna lure him to Hollywood and film a movie. And then what? And then we're gonna hit him on the head with a rock.
I like how
Why
that
can't-
sounds.
Wow.
Why can't we just do that in New York? Don't you see?
There's no
We'll be in
rocks in New
Holly-
York.
We'll be in New Mexico. He won't suspect a thing. Yeah,
Oh,
but
man.
that really just gives us a 10-second element of surprise. Did you see the sparks that come out of my fingers?
Do what I say. or I'll start to-
Awesome.
So while the movie production crew is setting up, Spider-Man's looking over his script, and Green Goblin suggests they go off to rehearse the fight scene while the
Sorry.
and Spider-
I'm sorry.
That's okay. They all go off a ways, and the fight scene begins. And Spider-Man's a pretty swift guy. He figures out real quick that he's been set up like a schmuck.
He gets bitch slapped 3 times on this one page.
Yeah, he does.
Bam, bam, and bam.
2 from the Ox and 1 from Fancy Dancy.
Exactly.
This was so overplanned. I'm sorry. If they were just gonna gang up on him, I mean, this was so. You could have done this in New York, guys.
This is his plan. It's so ridiculous.
He's Norman Osborn, though. This isn't like Gibbon or Hammerhead. This is Norman Osborn.
Or the kangaroo.
The kangaroo. Spider-Man is holding his own pretty well against the Enforcers, but the confounding factor is, of course, the Green Goblin, who's flying around throwing bombs at Spidey while he's trying to dodge lassos and punches and judo attacks. So finally, Spider-Man uses his webs like tethered tumbleweeds to stir up a dust storm. I have to wonder what Jeffrey would think about this, because he really didn't like the web parachute, so I wonder what he thinks about web tumbleweeds.
I thought that was pretty cool.
I like it.
It was nice ingenuity that he used that web in that effect, not to attack, but to make a distraction or something like that.
It's different.
So while the Green Goblin circles above, watching for Spider-Man to emerge, we cut to New York to check in with our favorite peoples. Aunt May is, of course, writing a doting letter to Peter.
How long's he been gone? I mean, who writes a letter?
No, right?
Aunt
Was
May.
it
How
gone at
long is
least
he
an
out
hour?
of school?
Well, she'd
Oh
always
my-
text him on his cell phone. Oh, wait a minute.
It might be. It might be spring break or something.
Or the weekend?
Because the
That-
teenagers,
that's-
they're not at school. They're at
She's
the
gonna
school.
write him a letter on the weekend. Like by the time it's mailed, it'll be Monday.
I know,
Well,
right?
it is Aunt May. She thinks the guy can't wake up without
The guy-
dying. Or...
It's going to
Well-
take 3 to 4 days to get there.
Well, okay,
And-
we can understand Aunt May, but Liz Allen's like, has anyone gotten any mail? So
Yeah, there's no time to get mail. Like you could say, okay, he just left. He's gonna be gone maybe a week or two while they're making
This
this
doesn't make any
picture.
sense.
I'll write a letter to
No.
him now, and it'll get to him in a few days. But for Liz Allen to wonder if we've gotten any mail yet when he's only been gone for at most a day.
why does Liz Allen think that Peter's gonna write letters to all these people?
Yeah,
these,
when they hate him.
these are not his friends.
But of course, she is a blonde.
I mean, like if I was Flash, I'd be like, oh yeah, Liz, Peter wrote me this whole letter. We sat up talking. We sat up talking all night.
He called me on
If
the
Flash did that, that'd be awesome.
Wow.
So Flash is, of course, ragging on Liz for her Peter crush, and she's putting him down with some pretty harsh words. Peter is a dreamboat. He's sensitive, intelligent, articulate. You probably don't even know what those words mean. Which,
That kind of makes me think.
nuts.
Do you think that they got any letters from like some of the readers saying why can't Peter start being popular? Do you think that this is something Stanley made organically, or were there any letters to indicate? I know we've actually read the letters, but anything to
No,
indicate?
I think he just put it in there for drama between the two girls.
we have a
Honestly.
letter either this issue or the next one where someone's sad that he's not going out with Liz, that he chose Betty instead, because gentlemen prefer blondes.
Okay,
It's
Jonah,
been-
by the way, is a complete jerk because he knows. I mean, you can't say that he doesn't know because he was there in the other panel where they were arguing. He knows about Peter and Betty. He knows that Betty's insecure. So what does he say? Bring me back some sensational pictures of Spider-Man. I don't want to find out that he's wasting his time dating those Hollywood glamour girls. She's standing right there, his girl. What?
He's
That's
smiling too.
Yeah. Do you get pleasure out of this, Jonah? Like, you got to know what you're doing to Betty.
Well, we established last episode that he didn't care when she was kidnapped by Dr. Octopus. All he cared about was pictures, so he probably doesn't even like Betty that much.
He's basically switched over to Heartless Bastard mode by this point.
And all those people who thought that, like, back in the day that Jonah was the Green Goblin, unless he has, like, an android double or, something, he's pretty obviously not the Green Goblin, but I've heard some people who were around back then and who were readers back
Jeff
then
Jameson.
saying that, like, Jonah was a serious contender in their minds.
Yeah.
So back in New Mexico, Spider-Man ducks out of the cloud and into a cave. Goblin sets the enforcers to follow him, and they seal off the entrance with a boulder. And of course, now nobody can see anything because there's no light coming in. So I actually have no idea how the rest of the story could even happen. But Spider-Man does succeed in picking off the two smaller enforcers and trapping the Green Goblin behind a web wall so he can take out the Ox.
I like the web shooter sound effect. It's not thwip, it's thwap.
It's a large, in case Thwip is not
It's
enough.
a big web.
Yeah,
It's a big
web.
thwap.
It's like a hole in the
like-
ceiling. What is? That's kind of weird.
It's like
It's a mini
This is this is a really odd cave.
to say the least.
But when I was like 8 or 9 when I read it, I'm like, oh, this is so cool.
This was the awesomest cave when I was reading.
I like
it.
I like how he knocks out the Ox in one punch. Ox is.
I like how he
Ox is-
hops on the rock and just bitch slaps him right in the face. Boom!
I
You ever think
I
that
had trouble in Ultimate Spider-Man when like he couldn't even take out the Ox because the Ox was like just strong. I was like, no, Spider-Man should be able to take on the Ox. Just because Ox is a big, powerful guy doesn't mean he's superhuman. Like he just like knocks him out.
Well, he's kind of surprised too. Like he's like, "What does it take to make you fall down?"
You ever think
His
that when
nut-
he's fighting these people, he just pictures Flash Thompson's face on them?
Or Jameson's.
But you got to talk about this panel when the smoke clears and the Hulk walks through. That's just
Yes,
like
that was my next.
If I were
thing.
Spider-Man, I would just like, no,
I'm out.
No.
Now, peace.
No.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what happens is the Green Goblin burns his way through the web wall with the butt end of his broomstick, and he takes off again. He throws a bomb, which Spider-Man dodges. But as the smoke from the explosion clears, he sees the Hulk lunging out of the darkness.
Holy Hannah!
Hey, baby, of all the caves to pick for a fight, he had to pick one of the Hulk was hiding in.
I know,
Oh.
right?
And there's more foreshadowing here, because the Hulk's, you want to capture me, and Spider-Man says, capture you, brother. I don't even want to share the same planet with you. Planet Hulk.
This
Wasn't
makes the
the
Green Goblin-
Hulk hiding out in a cave with the Fantastic Four? I remember the thing and everybody walking through a cave, and whoop, there's the Hulk.
Yeah, there's the Hulk. In fact, I meant to reread the Avengers #5 because that was the last thing he did before this. I wanted to see how that ended and why he actually came to this cave. But
See, this is the part where like we defer to Brad's knowledge or Bertoni's on the Hulk because I don't know. Like, but is he like Kirk Langstrom or something? Like, what's he doing in the cave exactly? I know he was down. I
He
know
just
the
hide
Hulk,
from the military and stuff.
yeah, he wasn't in New York. I knew that, but I didn't know like he just kind of crashed at the cave every now and then.
well, he didn't have his own series at this point, so the only thing you knew about the Hulk is when he guest spotted in somebody else or showed up in the Avengers. And
Ditko was actually a regular Hulk artist for a while, so him drawing
yeah.
him here, it's pretty cool. In fact, I guess Stan Lee would forget, which series he was drawing if he was drawing with Steve Ditko, because there was a few early issues of Hulk and Tales to Astonish, I think, where they called Betty Ross Betty Brandt.
Of course they did.
well, they also had Bob Banner several times.
Peter Palmer.
Peter
That's
Palmer.
pathetic. He was writing like 10 books at once, so I guess it does make sense that he would slip up on each person's name if they've written before. But these days, we're like, that sucks.
So the Green Goblin's pretty happy about all this because he just decides to just hang out and let the Hulk thrash the Spider-Man. So he's just going to let that
Yeah.
happen. And there's a lot of fighting. I didn't really write a whole lot about the fighting because there's just a lot of fighting. It's not bad fighting. I just not a whole lot.
No, I think Ditko is in his element here. I think the fighting, his storytelling with the fight scenes have gotten better and better and better. I mean, it's not great choreography, but it's kind of exciting to see. Like Spider-Man.
Oh yeah,
fall.
I love a good Spidey Hulk fight. I love the big smack. Ever been smacked by a guy with the proportionate strength of a spider? Well, turn up brain. There's always a first time. I love that.
That is cool. I do like that too.
And the Hulk's just like, whatever, dude. That's a baby tap.
Page
Big
17, the first panel. That I thought that was just like on both the Hulk and Spider-Man. That's really cool poses that they have. They're very indicative of each other's character. Spider-Man's all like kind of jittery and angular, and Hulk's just ramming in. I thought that was pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Well, for someone who has no clue about the Hulk, this is an excellent job of showing you just how powerful he is.
Yeah.
I mean, he's basically Superman in his invulnerability. Spider-Man can do nothing to this guy. And the Hulk does him just a little bit of love tap, and Spider-Man almost goes blacked out.
Yes, that was pretty cool.
That was a nice panel, and like when Brad said, well, turn up brain. There's always a first time. It's a very heroic panel. And he's like, who am I kidding? This is the Hulk.
You can clearly see the Charlie Brown chest hair on the Hulk on that page.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has like forearm hair too. never pictured the Hulk hairy. That's kind of interesting.
His hair falls out, I guess.
And for those who are still keeping track of nipples, no sign of nipples on the Hulk.
Oh yes.
Wow,
Whenever there's
oh my God, I'm turning the page back to check out Hulk nipples. Where have I gone? I'll be damned.
Also-
There's no Hulk nipples against the comics code. What?
I'm
You
actually
know,
kind
I
of
think
wondering
it
if they might be.
because I said before, there was a Batman issue where Neil Adams he had a shirt off and Neil Adams drew nipples, and there was actually like controversy in the editor's department. So, and that was like 10 years from this in the 70s. So it could have been part against the code or something.
Just a dude with nipples. We all have them.
They're in androgynous zones. Ooh.
They were in the Batman and Robin movie. Come on now.
But they really shouldn't have been. You got
and
I
that's
know,
and that's why they didn't
really
want the
shouldn't have
comic.
been, yeah.
Joel Schumacher's the reason why we have nipples in comic books. He fought for it.
He's a pioneer.
So the punchline of the fight, no pun intended, is that Spidey lures the Hulk over to the boulder that's been covering the entrance thanks to the enforcers, and he dodges an attack so that the Hulk smashes the boulder. Now Spidey can escape, but the Green Goblin zooms out at the same time. Spider-Man
Running
does,
like coward he is.
yeah. Spider-Man again thinks that throwing himself at a man who's flying through the air is a good thing, that, they won't actually both fall to their death. But the Goblin knocks him off of the glider, and Spider-Man lands in a pool below where he stays to hide from both the Goblin and the Hulk, who's stalking nearby, which is a smart move, Spidey.
I agree.
And that's the last we see of the Hulk. He goes off to do whatever it is the Hulk does next.
Get fired from the Avengers.
And I've
Or
never noticed it, but he talks about how his spider stamina enables him to hold his breath for long periods of time. Has he ever held his breath for a long period of time?
I read that and I immediately thought of the Master Planner issue where he's like trapped underwater and he once he gets out he's like, I can breathe again. So it may, but he was under there for a really long time. So that's a good question.
This is early enough in the Spider-Man series where they're literally making up new powers almost every single issue. Like in the next issue, he says, "Oh, my spider chest expansion."
Yeah, I made a note
powers."
about that.
Yeah.
Just for the record, the next Hulk appearance is his first Tales to Astonish book, where he fights Giant Man in issue 59 before he actually gets his own run in issue 60. When it's safe, Spider-Man starts bringing out the enforcers, all webbed up with no place to go. He spots an army helicopter above, which is kind of out of nowhere. I guess it's trying to spot the Hulk because there was news he was in the area. So back at a plush Hollywood suite of offices, BJ is infuriated at the loss of all his leads for the movie, but when he hears about the Hulk being in the area, he immediately latches onto the idea of using him in a movie, because that would work.
He'll get Ang Lee to direct it.
Right. So Spider-Man shows up for his money and to chew out BJ for using real villains in his movies, but BJ blows him off and refuses to pay him because the movie wasn't completed. However, he does pay for Spidey's expenses. And I assume that that's his plane ticket out and the Big Macs they ate on the 10-hour drive to New Mexico. And I'm kind of wondering how Spider-Man got back from New Mexico if he didn't go with the movie crew, because that's a lot of web swinging with nothing to really swing on because it was a freaking desert.
Spider stamina to walk there.
Stan Lee's geography teacher failed him.
Exactly. He started the flash.
You mean like a science teacher did?
Yeah.
By the way, that Professor Warren, is that the Clone Saga Professor Warren?
No, but it's his brother.
It's his brother. Okay, got it.
Mr. Warren is the teacher. Professor Warren is the college teacher. Like there's Mr. and Professor.
Gotcha.
Do we have Professor Warren in this?
Yeah, I was gonna say
There's a Mr.
Oh, he
Warren's
must be in 15. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's fine. Speaking of long drives, Peter decides to take a bus back to New York, and that's gotta suck because that's 44 hours if you...
Oh, man.
I wonder, does he go simple? Does he go easy? Does he go Greyhound?
Okay, I took a bus 300 miles a few months ago, and that took me all day.
Yeah, it's...
I didn't even leave the state. I just went from the East Coast to the West Coast to Florida. That's it, and that took, like the whole day.
And it's not a fun way to travel. I mean, it's not terribly uncomfortable, but
really
you have
sucks.
lots of interesting people on buses.
Poor Peter.
John, I got to talk to you about this very second to last panel.
Okay.
Where the Goblin, or Norman Osborn, is in a green shirt, a green suit, face hidden. If you pan back a couple pages, what color is J. Jonah Jameson's suit when Betty is thinking about writing a letter?
Okay, is yours green? Because mine, he has like a brownish suit.
Oh, mine's green in the Marvel Masterworks from '88.
Controversy.
Is green on Jonah, too?
Yeah, it's green on Jonah, and green on the second to last page.
That's interesting that they changed the coloring because it is brown in both places here.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's weird. Okay. Well, anyway, I thought that would be a good inflection that Jameson as the Green Goblin. Anyway.
That's interesting.
Even though they're in 2 different parts of the country at once.
That would make the Goblin even because like. If
Are
you
you
don't
guys-
know who he is, then it's like the whole concept of Green Goblin is kind of weird.
Well, what color
it-
was the original book?
I'm looking at brown, but
I have a scan of the original book. It's brown.
Oh, you do? Okay, gotcha.
I have the DVD scan.
They had enough green for the costume. Anyway.
Ditko loves green.
And if you look in the panel right beside it, there is a green. Well, no, it's brown. Okay, so there's a green leg right in front of Peter walking.
That would be kind of creepy, actually.
and
If I was-
his spider sense is the rules are really weird about his spider sense. The Green Goblin's somewhere in the city. My spider instinct can sense it. Like
Let's ignore that.
that's pretty like random.
Unless it's that guy off to the right in the brown suit walking, whose back is to us on the right hand of the panel.
Oh, there you go.
He's
That-
I like the quote. He could be anywhere. I must never relax my guard because, he'll keep his mind on that.
And he hasn't met Harry yet. That's 30-ish something.
He's bumped into Harry if we're to believe what happened in Untold Tales. Like he didn't meet Harry, but like he was rushing to get film developed and he ran into Harry and Gwen and like bumped into them and they all fell over. But he got up and walked away without talking to them.
Did John Byrne write a thing in dialogue where he says, "Wow, I hope they don't die in my arms"?
And the original plan, at least for Ditko, is what I've heard, is that Ditko wanted the Green Goblin to be just a nobody, basically, kind of like the burglar was a nobody.
Didn't he say something about that in an interview? Didn't he actually talk about that?
I don't know if he talked about it, but that's always been the rumor. What broke Stanley and Ditko up is the Goblin ID.
Now, so y'all,
Ditko-
I actually listened to an episode of Crawl Space recently where y'all addressed that. Where he said in an interview, and y'all read quotes from it on the radio.
It's like, what?
On the podcast.
What show are you talking about? The one I host?
Yeah, the one that you host from a year. There was an episode about a year.
Was that the one where like y'all were talking about the Fantastic Four issues? Because I remember y'all talked about like Ditko's.
Go ahead, John. What were we talking about? It must have been
Okay,
JR
so
talking.
it was actually JR wasn't there that day. Dick had done an interview where he talked about how he had fully intended Norman Osborn to be the Green Goblin, and he started putting the face in intentionally, and that he made Harry look the same as the face he was dropping into Jameson's social life. He did that intentionally, and that was going to be the whole idea that they would split up over such a silly creative choice like the Green Goblin's identity was very idiotic to him, that there were different issues that drove them apart.
Yeah, I legitimately think that because Stanley was he was pretty public with his like liberal politics, and Steve Ditko was an ultra conservative Ayn Rand fanboy. That I kind of go after the idea that they stopped talking after a year and he just mailed in his panels. Then after like issue 37 or 38, he's like, I'm done, and just left. I kind of think that was what it was.
Would Spider-Man still be as popular with Ditko doing 100 issues?
Alan Moore
I'd
seems
say
to think
so.
so.
I think the relationship had changed, because I think towards the end of Ditko's run, his lack of care for the character is starting to show a little bit. But if he had as much passion for the art as he did in these issues that we're doing the last couple episodes on, and he did that for 100 issues, I think it'd be great. I know Romita had a different style and brought a whole lot of new things to the table that were really awesome for different reasons, but I think 100 issues of Ditko would have been good.
It's interesting because Romita said that he was like, when he first got in on the book, he tried to sort of emulate Ditko's style into his style, and just gave that up after like 2 or 3 issues.
Well, everyone was
I
so
actually
angry at each other at the end of the Ditko run, like that the first 2 issues of the Romita run were like everybody apologizing to everybody
Yeah.
for being like jerks.
I
Yeah.
personally prefer the Remita stuff. I don't know about you guys. What
I
do.
do.
You guys? You do?
I
Yeah.
like it, but you need the Ditko stuff as the foundation.
Exactly.
I agree.
I like both artists and respect what they do. I would prefer Ditko stuff aesthetically, but I prefer Romita stuff aesthetically, but Ditko stuff I'm not gonna saunter off. I think he's a good artist, but I just like Romita better personally.
An interesting point is that the quote often is from Stanley or whatever that they weren't talking for a couple of years before Ditko stopped working. He was sending in his art, and we are a couple of years before Ditko leaves. This is right at the 2-year mark, because Green Goblin's identity is only secret for 2 years.
I think it was probably just a year, because I think certain stories, like I think the Master Planner one was really one of those stories where they had to have had they couldn't have done that like on their own separately. As in Stanley guessing what Steve Ditko meant and wrote in dialogue. I think that one was probably talked out, but maybe soon afterwards they weren't. Because I think this one, I was trying to find panels where you could tell Stanley didn't know what was going on. I think there's one near the beginning where...
Oh, there is, because you get the feeling at the end of the issue that the Green Goblin's laboratory is in New York, and then you get the feeling at the beginning of the issue that's the same laboratory. But if you read the beginning of the issue, the Green Goblin's already in Hollywood, because they say, meanwhile, 3,000 miles away.
Oh, it does?
So, okay, yeah, read the beginning of the issue, because if you look carefully, it's pretty much implied that the Green Goblin's in Hollywood.
So, yeah, I was just looking at that, because it does say that he's working on it there, and that's all laboratory looking. But he's definitely in New York, according to the dialogue, according to the narration anyway, at the end of the book. So, and that's interesting. But, of course, we know that Osborn has, every 3 square blocks he has another hideout.
Well, this was before he had a million hideouts, and this was before the Osborns were super rich, millionaires, world famous. Because it's funny, because Norman Osborn, he was just, Donovan's heard me say this a bunch of times, but he was just a businessman that had a little more money than everyone else. And in fact, there's an issue where Harry's making fun of Peter, saying my father's forgotten more about science than you'll ever know, and then Peter's thinking, I think I've heard the name of Harry's father somewhere, but I'm not sure. Now it's been retconned that Norman Osborn was so famous that he was an inspiration to Peter Parker when he was younger. They did a flashback issue where Peter meets Norman as a child, and he's like, wow, I love science, Mr. Osborn, you're sure my hero. And the Osborns went from being just a little richer than everyone else to being one of the richest people in the world.
So just wrapping up the plot, the last tidbits. Green Goblin does fly on his broomstick all the way across the country. I don't know where he puts the fuel on that thing, but he does. And he gets there a few hours before Peter, so he's only actually flying slightly faster than highway speeds.
Another thing about Ditko's art is that he draws the ears on Green Goblin super big.
Yeah.
And I think they're just as big, but you notice them less with Romita's style. I know there was an issue with Ditko and the Green Goblin coming up where they are really, really big. They're bigger than almost his face. It's crazy.
We do finally find out from his thought balloons what his motivation has been this whole time. He wanted to take out Spider-Man and then use the Enforcers as his henchmen to start a new crime syndicate, which I can understand the motivation. But like we said earlier, his execution was much to be desired.
When I was reading this, I'd forgotten what his motivation was, and I was glad they referenced that at the very last panel. I'm like, why does he want Spider-Man so bad?
I actually had notes in my recap about how we have no clue why he's doing this, and then
exactly, yeah. And the other thing I've noticed, if you look at that second to last panel where the face is hidden again, does the Green Goblin really have those big eyelashes anymore? Did that kind of go away?
That's a good. Okay, I'm looking at my poster right now. I have a poster of ASM 122, and I don't think so. I think it's just cartoony eyes, but I don't think they have the eyelashes.
Giant ears and eyelashes, man.
But essentially, he's trying to copy the Big Man, which kind of makes sense because the Big Man was the boss of all the crime gangs. Spider-Man took him out, and now this guy wants to fill in the position, hopefully to do a better job than Foswell did.
Untold Tales, they actually built up Norman Osborn in those early issues of the series, and you found out that Norman Osborn was hiring little 2-bit thugs like the Scorcher and the Headsman, and I think the Headsman even used one of the thugs used an early
guys.
Yeah, or I think it was Headsman used an early version of the broomstick, and there's an issue where it's from Harry's point of view, and he's wondering why his dad's always in the laboratory, and after Spider-Man defeats the latest villain, Norman's doodling the Goblin mask in his notebook, saying that he's probably gonna have to go after Spider-Man himself.
I want them to bring back the Scorcher. I love those guys, Scorcher and Headsman. Those are the main villains from. Those are the ones I really remember. From
Norman's doing all of this so that way, once he takes over the crime syndicate, he'll work his way up to, the Thunderbolts, then he'll work his way up to Hammer, then he can take down Asgard, finally. That's what this is all about.
Yeah. Damn Asgardians.
So on page 6, in the 5th out of 6 panels, Peter Parker kind of looks like a sitcom star or something. He has kind of the way the detail on his face. It's almost like he's not meant to be really super handsome or something, but he kind of looks like somebody. It looks like a publicity shot for a 50s movie star or something. Maybe that's just me.
You talking about the very last panel?
The 5th one, the second to last panel where where Liz starts her PMS kind of thing.
What page were y'all on?
Page 6.
He does kind of look GQ-ish there.
Just doing a quick first appearance thing because there's only two. For what it's worth, there was an issue of Journey into Mystery about a year before this, issue 92, where Thor got wrapped up in making a movie, and that producer was also named BJ.
Really?
Oh yeah. He looked just a little bit different, but not so much that you couldn't just explain it away by saying different artists and it's a year later. So that might have been a possible earlier appearance for BJ, but this is basically the other only appearance of BJ Cosmos, who gets a different last name, Cosmogian or Cosmojan or what.
Well, that's a Hollywood thing,
Yeah. That's finally in the official handbook of the Marvel Universe, issue 13 from 1984.
Well,
Wow.
this is movie thing. Like, it was done in Thor. It was done here. They also did it in one of the first issues of the Fantastic Four. Namor lures them to make a movie. And it's like the exact same thing. Like, oh, can we really trust Namor, who's tried to kill us? Well, he's wearing a suit, so I think we can trust him. Besides, we really need the money. Wait a second. The person who's trying to kill us has actually lured us into a trap.
So Stanley actually used this plot 3 times because the Thor story was a Loki plot. So using a movie to trap your hero.
I think Stan Lee doesn't really like Hollywood that much because the first thing that this guy says is, oh, we want to ask you for a movie called The Nameless Thing from the Black Lagoon in the Mercury Swamp. I mean, that's clearly a swipe.
One thing I wanted to mention also when I read this is during the 80s, the Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends also had a lure of a movie plot, and Mysterio was used, and the Hulk was hidden in a cave also. Remember this?
Oh,
Remember
I haven't
that
seen those
episode?
since they were on the air, so I don't really
Yeah.
remember that well.
That was one of my favorites.
Superheroes have to stop making movies. They did this in
Exactly.
Ultimate Spider-Man. Didn't he go to Hollywood and fight Dr. Octopus?
That was to
Yeah,
celebrate
that's right.
Spider-Man 2, though.
Yeah, Tobey Maguire was cast or something like that.
Right, and Avi Arad is a real SOB in that story,
Yeah.
too, which
Just
made
like in real
me
life.
feel weird.
Yeah,
Stop
don't-
making movies.
Yeah, don't make a movie, guys. Come on now.
It's always going to be a trap. And
The trap.
for
It's a trap.
now for chapter 1, they actually did do something that made a little more sense. Apparently the movie studio was called Osborne Studios, and it was owned by Norman, so it made more sense that Norman would do this because, hey, he's got the resources anyway.
Did they show Norman in that issue, or was that before they introduced him in chapter
I
1?
believe that they showed Norman because John Byrne said in an interview that at this point, even new fans who were coming to the book knew who Norman was, so that there was no sense in playing up the big reveal.
When did Chapter 1 happen? That was late 90s, right?
Yeah, about
Yeah,
1990.
We didn't have a movie
99.
yet. We did have the cartoon series, so that should, yeah.
Well, Norman
Well,
was
that ended in 98, so that may have been off by then.
Norman was a regular supporting character, right before Chapter 1, because he had owned the Daily Bugle, and, that was to the point where, he had come back, about 2 years prior, and every single plot was, a Norman plot.
This is when the books were good.
It was
So,
like-
which is why I like what Greg Weisman did, because as John Bird said, even new fans know who, Norman Osborn is, that he's the Green Goblin. Well, Weisman said, I'm still going to make it a mystery. And he did.
And it worked.
Yeah, this is clearly like they clearly make this issue out you're not supposed to know who he is, and he gets away at the end. Is this the first Spider-Man villain that gets away at the end?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Chameleon didn't get away. I'm thinking of issues where Spider-Man ran away crying like a little girl. He did it at the end of Chameleon, but Chameleon got caught.
The cops end up arresting him, but I don't think Spider-Man even knew that. But
It's a completely unresolved villain encounter. If you want to count issue 11 because Dr. Octopus gets away, but that was clearly done as a cliffhanger to bring him into the next issue.
and again, the Romita Jr. drawing in ASM 500.
But yeah, the whole
And
Green Goblin identity thing, since I only had the first 20 issues, I didn't know who the Green Goblin was. Of course, I didn't know Norman Osborn by that point either. So whenever I started collecting in 1990 and I found out there had been several Green Goblins, I've had this sense ever since then that Spider-Man has this huge, rich backstory that I wanted to explore, and that was just one of the things, was all the different goblins and how that had all come about.
Well, this is the panel where you see the mask and him changing near the end. That's the second to last panel. I remember reading one of JR's articles, and that was replicated in the Hobgoblin story, wasn't it?
Yep.
I forgot what was going on, but
Hobgoblin lives.
oh,
He was changing.
I have that. Dang it! Yeah.
And the change behind a mirror thing?
Yeah, and his brother's behind him, but you don't know that it's his brother at that point because he's wearing a wig.
It was when he was monologuing to Betty in the third issue before you find out who he is, right?
No, he was doing it in front of his brother in issue 2.
No, I mean, but that's the context of the panel. In the weeks that followed, I did this and this, and you see him. Whatever, it's in there. Yeah.
Speaking of first, is this the first time that we've had a villain go after Spider-Man just for the sake of going after Spider-Man?
Well, Dr. Octopus in issue 12, he's like, why hasn't Spider-Man gone after me?
Right,
Why?
that's kind of a revenge thing. That wasn't his initial motive.
Ditko Dr. Octopus makes such little sense. It's awesome. What about... No, the Sandman just kind of ran into him. Electro is a douche.
They were all just crooks and gangsters and criminals that Spider-Man got in the way of.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
this is the
he almost
first guy
really
who's like
jumped.
set out to get Spider-Man.
He'll get Spider-Man again and again and again. He can't
And
kill
again.
him.
Luthor next time.
And kill half his family and friends, and then, hide half
And
of them.
then write letters saying, "Congratulations, Peter, good job." Like,
And
he
then
really loves the guy.
And then, knock up his girlfriend.
Wow.
'Cause that's how a villain rolls.
So Spider-Man does the whole web catapult thing. And I've thought this before and forgot to mention it, but if you're swinging through the city, I think the last thing you want is a super stretchy rope to swing from. I don't think you want to be swinging from bungee type material. Yet he's always using it to, super elastic fling himself places. So I'm not entirely sure how that works, but of course his web is...
I never noticed that. Like, I never thought about that. Yeah, like the webbing isn't like just rope. It's like elastic kind of webbing.
Right. So if he makes a 6-inch strand from him to the nearest 6-foot strand from him to the nearest flagpole, it's going to stretch out, twice as long before he actually, I don't know. It seems weird to me.
Science?
Science!
It has the proportional something of a spider, just tell yourself that. That's what Stan did.
That's what Stan. Yeah, in Stan we trust. Which is
The
a bad
Spider
idea.
chest expansion actually happened here. I think we said it happened next issue, but it was during the Enforcers fight in the desert.
Yeah, when he gets the ropes off of him.
Right.
Which at this point, it's early enough in the series that they can just make up powers.
Well, I mean, nothing here doesn't really. I mean, nothing here like insults my intelligence like the Electro origin or anything. Nothing here doesn't not make sense.
Well, it's been retconned that the Green Goblin had super strength from his serum. In this issue, as far as we know, he's just a guy in the costume. All that stuff like Goblin formula and super strength from everything that all came later. Because they talked about the formula in his origin story when Ramita took over, but they never said anything explicit that it gave him super strength.
Well, he does nothing that would require strength in this. He just swings around on his broomstick and throws bombs. I don't think he even punches Spider-Man once. He pushes him off the glider into the pool at the end.
He's a very lazy villain. He just gets other people to do his dirty work and goes off to Hollywood.
That's what he does for a while. He gets those gang members in issue 23, and there's that awesome two-parter. I believe it's 27 and 28 with the Crime Master. That was good. Awesome. Issue 17 is one of the few issues where, in the early days, where they actually, have a tete-to-tete.
But it's not a super strength thing. It's him with his goblin tricks.
Yeah, he's just being a just like kind of like a guy. Even now, he's before he actually becomes that, he's a guy behind the scenes, sort of. He tries to get away while he fights the enforcers and everything. So.
There is no end to the praise for the Big Man story in this issue's letters column. I think we all agreed that was a pretty excellent story. Did anyone have anything? I mean, Big Man story was pretty good, yeah?
It's a highlight of the Ditko era.
I liked it, but I liked it. What I remember from it was the Betty Brant saga.
Yeah. Yeah, the Betty Brant stuff was pretty good.
Oh, I wonder why Betty's so upset. I wonder if it's because those loan sharks were threatening her. Nah.
So Peter's a jerk in that issue, but otherwise the story's really good. Mark Reed praises the team for keeping Spider-Man human and not overcluttered with superpowers like a certain other company's superhero, who shall remain nameless.
Image Comics, we're looking at you.
Right. No, it's from Dell Comics. Stephen Moy is complaining of the lovey-dovey elements, and there's actually an email that was kind of cool I want to email. I keep saying emails. There are no emails in 1964.
Twitter.
Eric King says, I've read Marvel Comics from the beginning. Spider-Man couldn't be improved. The X-Men are great, but the Avengers aren't up to Marvel's regular standards. One thing I must comment on is the girl members of the Marvel family. They're all a bunch of wows. Pepper Potts, who substars with Iron Man, looks wonderful now. The only other problem you have is the double initial disease. Sue Storm, Reed Richards, J.J. Jameson, Pepper Potts, Happy Hogan, Peter Parker, and Bruce Banner are a few illustrations.
Dum Dum Dugan.
Yeah.
Scott
I think my dad
Summers.
told me Scott Summers, or Slim Summers, if you like. Speaking
There's
of
an episode of The Big Bang Theory where this guy basically spends 10 minutes listing off all the Stan Lee double names.
Nice.
And joy of joys, they announced the publication of a Spider-Man annual. which will be published 2 months later and which we'll be covering 2 episodes down the road. The first Spider-Man annual. Good stuff.
Dr. Octopus meets his one true love.
Oh, yeah.
And it ain't Betty Brant.
And it ain't Betty Brant. Well,
Unfortunately.
he's had her. He wants to move on.
Oh.
He's all hands anyway.
Oh, Watto!
Oh, Otto.
You know John Jameson Sr.
Now, can we talk about something else?
I'm
Okay.
scarred for life. Oh, I just
I-
read the issue. I just read the issue where he walks in on them at the end of the issue.
Oh God,
in
man.
the
Sorry.
24/7 arc.
Yeah.
I had to
Did
laugh.
you like it?
Well, yeah, I'm not as hard on Brand New Day as y'all are. I thought it was funny. It scarred me, I'm pretty sure, emotionally, but I thought it was funny still.
Well, look at the picture of Aunt May in issue 14. Do you think that woman could even get busy?
No.
A Ditko drawn Aunt May?
Would she
No.
even
I
have
think
a
she
drive?
was. My retcon is that Aunt May was just so heavily medicated back then. That's why she seems like, so absent-minded, like in these early issues. And then in like future issues, she's like carrying on intelligent philosophical conversations with everybody and like,
She's on antidepressants here because of Ben dying.
yeah.
I mean, she's gotten older since Amazing Fantasy 15. She wasn't drawn that old in the first issue. I mean, her
Dr.
face-
Bumble wasn't a good doctor. He got his degree from like a mail-away college.
Well, it was that first surgery she had really effed her up for the rest of her life. We do have a couple of ads in this for the Fantastic Four 28 and Tales to Astonish 57. The Fantastic Four 28 guest starred the X-Men, who have been around for almost a year by this point. I don't know if they were doing it for advertisement or just because everybody was guest starring in the Fantastic Four at this point. They were really going through a phase. And
Is
the
this
book,
when they had Reed and Sue's engagement party and the X-Men showed up there with Xavier?
I don't know if that was before or after this. I think it was a little bit later. I think that's in the 30s, and this is number 28. But this is like a full-on, team-up fight against the Mad Thinker and the Awesome Android with the X-Men. And then, of course, the Tales to Astonish was Giant Man's book, and issue 57 guest starred Spider-Man, so we'll talk about that one in the next episode. Amazing Spider-Man 15, released May 12th, 1964, with a cover date of August, will be covered by the bombastic Bertoni.
I'm so bombastic, and so is Kraven. He's Russian. He wants to kill Spider-Man, and so does his whole family. Kraven, if I had to use one word to describe Kraven, I would say fertile. This guy's got 5 kids.
I will hunt
And-
you down in bed.
Oh God!
Well-
Oh no!
Well, I mean, he's got Alyosha, he's got Dimitri, and then there was that other one who was in the movie studio with Alyosha and get Kraven series, and then there's Anya, who
Yeah, I
affectionate-
bet you I want to get on ya.
yeah.
If
know,
my
and then-
name was Alyosha, I couldn't spell it till I was in high school. My first
Elio,
name.
I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right,
gosh.
but and then of course he's brothers with the Chameleon, but we don't find that out until the 90s. Here they're just really good friends. So yeah, we get the cover. So, you think there are no new types of supervillains left for old Spidey the Battle, eh? Well, you've got a surprise coming. Here's one of the newest and greatest of all, Kraven the Hunter.
Just for the
Spec-
record, Craven actually means cowardly.
Seriously,
I always
seriously.
knew that, and I always wondered. I never got the concept of giving such a courageous, fearful villain the name Craven. That was like an oxymoron to me.
Special guest star, reintroducing one of the first foes Spider-Man ever fought. Karma, chameleon. For any of you who have been living in another galaxy for the past 2 years, we'll explain that this is Spider-Man, and this is certainly the most exciting Spider-Man adventure we've ever published, since the last one. It's got villains, heroes, action, a mismatch of everything, and it's told in the Marvel manner. Enough said.
I like how they're
Oh.
starting to admit how they are always praising themselves and praising their stories.
Well, there's a gang meeting. Spider-Man breaks it up, but the leader gets away. By the way that he stops these villains is that he webs the door when they're trying to get out. A pretty nifty trick that will help him at the end of the issue. The leader of the gang who gets away, I can't understand the science behind this, but he uses a special kind of gas to change the color of his clothes.
Oh, it's Ditko gas because he brings it back in the question with the I forgot what it's called, but that's basically how the question turns into his costume identity by using the gas to change his colors of his clothes.
It's
Why
a
don't you
chemically
just-
treated suit. It changes colors when it reacts with the chemical that he sprays.
Oh, whatever.
It looks like he
Whatever.
turns into J. Jonah Jameson.
It really does, dude. I thought that ever since I was
Yeah.
six.
Isn't he supposed to? Or no?
No, he's an old man.
No, he's although Chameleon will, impersonate J. Jonah Jameson for a very long period in the late 80s or was it early 90s when Jerry Conway was back on Web of Spider-Man. He did a storyline like, okay, so yeah, he used gas to change his clothes because, some of us just decide to get dressed, but that's too good for Russians. This person, he's the chameleon, and he decides, you know what, I thought I can, come back here from Russia, do my whole criminal career again, which is funny because he was actually a spy working for the communists, but his motivation's different here. We'll get into that later. Says, but this Spider-Man thing, it's kind of driving me crazy, so I need someone to attack him for me because I'm too chicken to do it. But there's no one that would be stupid enough to, hey, wait a minute, my old friend Craven, he'll love to do it. I'll send a wire immediately. And I'm not exaggerating. That's pretty much how it goes. He's like, nobody would be foolish enough to do it. Oh, wait, I'll get Craven.
Yeah.
He sends a wire for Craven, and Craven arrives. And his arrival, it's like so interesting that almost the whole supporting cast is there because Jonah takes Betty because Betty's the only person that works at the Bugle at this point in the series.
And I want to point out that Craven is like Mysterio in the fact that he has eyes on his nipples.
Yeah, that's really weird.
And a similar haircut. In fact, I think they might actually be the same person.
Yeah, Peter's there, blue suit and all, because he got the message that, he's supposed to take pictures. And for some reason, Liz and Flash are there, because she wants to get a look at Craven. Oh, Pete, isn't it thrilling? Craven the Hunter has never been seen in New York before. Yes, Liz, sure. Have you met Betty Brant? No, Peter. We haven't had the pleasure.
I love
this isn't a meeting of the Lonely Hearts Club.
What'd you say, Brad?
Dripping word balloon. That's, you don't ever see those, but that's really cool.
Yeah, the ice.
The ice.
This is Betty and Liz's first official meeting after, Liz has been on Betty's radar though for the past 2 issues, but this is their first official meeting.
Yeah.
Nice.
So Craven's there, and Jonah, wants an exclusive interview. He wants to talk to him, and Craven's obviously not interested. He's focused on other things, like this mess up on the boat where all the animals get out. So Peter changes to Spider-Man. He's like, oh, man, I got to take this. You can actually see his blue suit in the background on the floor when he's changing.
That's kind of funny. Yeah, that's pretty good. Peter Parker no more.
Craven has this thing well in hand, and he's tackling gorillas, tackling snakes, and Peter says, I guess I'm not needed after all. Look at Liz's face. Like at the top of, I guess it's page 5.
Look at Flash's face.
Yeah, Flash is about to punch Liz in the face. One of these days, Liz, I'm gonna punch you in the face.
Look at Luke Cage's wife back there.
Oh yeah, probably yeah. Who knows? It could be her.
Who knows?
Jessica.
What's her name again?
J. Jones.
Jessica Jones.
Jessica Jones. Yeah, look at Jessica Jones.
So Peter's like, okay. Well, I guess I'm not needed here. So he changes back to Peter, and apparently he was supposed to be taking pictures, and he didn't. So, which was the whole point of him coming down there. So Jonah's bad. You didn't snap them. Tell me I'm hearing things. Tell me it's all a bad dream. Tell me it never happened. And Liz is like, I'm just gonna flirt in front of his girlfriend. Your tie is crooked, Petey. Let me fix it for you. Yes, Petey. Let her fix it for you. Something tells me this just isn't my day. And, just to add more, bad luck, Flash is like, Liz, if you want Parker to get a fat lip, just keep that up.
Do you
so
think
no
Liz
one likes him. Aww.
Yeah,
Do you think Liz realizes what she's doing here as far as getting on Betty's nerves?
Oh, duh.
Oh,
yeah.
Duh, yeah. I mean, she goes out of her way in issue 17, putting on a little weight, aren't you, Miss Brandt?
Well, by then, yeah, I see it, but this is the first time they're meeting. I don't know if she realizes that Betty Brant is supposed to be.
Yeah, she may not even like really notice Betty that much.
I think Liz is making a point to both Flash and Betty, which is why I think that subconsciously, and I've said this before, that when Flash and Betty eventually wound up dating in the 80s, like part of it was like Flash like kind of doing Flash and Betty both doing their own like subconscious revenge against Peter and Liz. Like Betty's thinking, aha, Liz, I'm with your ex-boyfriend now. How does that feel? And Flash thinking, Peter, I'm with your first girlfriend now.
Because revenge sex is the best kind.
Yeah, in fact, if you look at them at the bottom of page 5, the way that, Flash and Betty are kind of giving each other a look like, don't worry, one of these days we're going to have an affair, and it's going to show them all.
We don't have one right now. It's Ditko's right. We'll never do it.
There are no affairs in Ditko in 1964.
That we know of.
Yeah, look at Craven's hair on page 6. That's, he's got his hair all slicked back for someone wrestling animals.
Hair helmet.
Now, if we're talking about page 6, I have to announce that this is the very first appearance of a very popular character in the Marvel history. If you look at the bottom left panel with Spider-Man on the street corner and a guy is pushing a broom, that is the first official appearance of Wolverine. That says, quote, "Move it, bub." You're blocking progress.
No.
First appearance of Wolverine, right there.
So
He
Wolverine
went
was pretty
undercover
upset.
for Shield.
And the guy's short. Look how short he is in that panel. That's Wolverine.
So that means that Stan Lee was robbed of a Stan Lee cameo in the Wolverine movie.
Dang.
He's on a secret Weapon X
I
assignment.
mean, who says bub? It's
Well,
Wolverine.
Flash, he's all about punching people in the face this issue because he almost got Liz on the last page. Then he's threatening Peter. And look at panel 4 of page 6.
Yeah, he's about to punch Liz.
He's like, Liz, woman, I gotta put you in your place. Well, Craven
One of these
announces
days, one of these days, to the moon, Liz.
So Craven announces that he's gonna punch Spider-Man in the face, which obviously also makes Peter uncomfortable. And J. Jonah Jameson, of all people, says, isn't that against the law? Because apparently Jonah's all about ethics and about, making sure that nobody punches Spider-Man.
Yeah, right.
You can't just track down a human being in this country.
Yeah, so who would have
Except
thought?
me, I
So
can,
Peter-
when I'm mayor.
So Peter hits, some points on the head, that Stanley always tries to make every single issue. Boy, when I used to read comic mag adventures of superheroes, I always dreamed about how great it would be to become one. It's great, all right, for everyone except Spider-Man. Aw, nuts! Which is what every single Marvel character did in their books, like they'd hit you over the head. Huh, normal superheroes don't have to worry about asking a girl out for a date, or have to worry about taking their glasses off and having lasers shoot from their eyes, or...
Joe Quesada would be very upset with this Wolverine panel because there's a pack of cigarettes right on the ground.
Oh, look at that. Cigarettes.
How dare he?
Damn it, Stanley.
Yeah, smoking.
Oh, Mephisto,
So,
could you do me a favor?
So, Jonah's mad at Peter for not taking pictures. Betty's mad because, Liz dared to touch Peter's tie. And, she's so hurt.
That's not all she
and like,
Ha!
Peter's like, you gotta get your, speech bubbles looked at. They're melting. And, Liz, and Flash can't understand, why his girlfriend is openly trying to cheat on him. And Kraven and Chameleon talk about, Spider-Man, and he's like, I got you all this stuff on Spider-Man, so you'll be able to, find out all about him. So they concoct this plan, which involves the Chameleon hiring some thugs to rob something so that way Spider-Man could fight them. I don't know, if this plan would have backfired and like Human Torch or somebody came instead, whatever. But it doesn't backfire. Spider-Man comes, he fights the thugs, and Kraven's able to observe him. And as soon as the thugs are all captured, Spider-Man and Kraven have their first epic confrontation.
And how epic is it?
Get to Stan Lee.
Right.
Hold on.
I like the way he is.
Spider-Man's like, why are you doing this? He's like, you shall be my greatest hunt. But then, Kraven's like, oh, Spider-Man actually has powers. I'm in trouble. So he's like, I'll use my potion. So he injects some potion in the Spider-Man, and then he's like, aha, you're weak, but instead of finishing off you now, I'm going to savor the victory and run away so we can meet up later in the issue.
And I never noticed this before reading this tonight, that his powers originate from his potions that he drank. I thought he was just a really strong dude.
I think some writers, I think in the for instance, in the Spectacular Spider-Man cartoon, before he turned into a stupid animal, he was legitimately just a really strong guy who could take on animals and stuff. But I know in the comics he takes a potion, but in some other medias, or sometimes writers just forget that he might just be a strong guy.
Well, that one where he's drinking the coffee cup or whatever, it says, I possess undreamed of strength and speed, which I obtained by drinking a secret potion stolen from the witch doctor. He told me what to say. He said, of a hidden African tribe with but one punch, I can stop the charge of a bull elephant.
So Kraven, talks to Chameleon about, aha, everything's going like I planned. While Spider-Man's swinging home, he's dizzy, he sees spots, he's shaking, so he says, well, maybe I'll sleep it off. But when he wakes up, he's still having problems, so he's trying to hide his shakes from Aunt May, who, this issue, as much as it'll be remembered from Kraven, I think that it might be even more remembered for this conversation right here. There's Aunt May talking with one of the neighbors. I'll try to gulp down my breakfast and leave before she can notice my shaking hands. It was so nice of you to drop in, dear. I'll give him your message. Good morning, Peter, dear. I've got some good news for you. Uh-oh, I'm too late. I've arranged a date for you with a lovely girl.
You did
A blind date? A blind date? Oh, brother, that's all I need. She's a niece of our neighbor, Mrs. Watson, and she'd just love to meet you, Peter. I appreciate it a lot, Aunt May, but no buts about it, Peter Parker. It's time you began to think seriously about your future. You'll want a girl who'll make a good housewife, someone like Mrs. Watson's niece.
Housewife, damn.
Has she seen Mary Jane?
Yeah, she always has a really wrong impression of Mary Jane's personality here.
So is this
Well-
the first appearance of Mrs. Watson?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And the first mention of Mary Jane.
Gotcha.
But they don't say her name. She's just Mrs. Watson's niece. They call her Mary Jane next issue.
Yeah.
Okay, Aunt May, we'll talk about it later. I've got to see Mr. Jameson now. Thank goodness she didn't notice my shaking hands. I hope you're wearing your winter weight suit, Peter, dear. There's still a nip in the air, and you know how fragile you are. If she thinks
Winter
he's so
weight suit?
fragile, like, she's setting him up with, like, someone who's going to, like, practically kill him. Like,
Just
if
by
she thinks that Peter's super fragile, yeah, because, like, Mary Jane's, like, so not.
What an idiot.
No. So. Oh, Aunt May.
How stupid you've been written.
Now, and again, this is one of those things where if it was published now, I'd be like, ha ha, housewife, I get it, because they get married, I get it, it's foreshadowing, ha ha, but it was so unintentional, and it works, like, Stanley knew stuff, he's,
Well, a housewife is someone who, like, stays at home and, does the June Cleaver thing. Mary Jane is a wife, but she ain't no housewife. She's like an
I'm wondering if
actress.
this is contrasting with Betty being a working girl.
Well, honestly, I don't think Stan Lee had a clue on what Mary Jane was all about
No.
until he saw a
No.
picture of
Hey, of course you did.
I don't think
Ramita
Aunt May knew
Senior.
either.
Yeah, and Ramita Senior blew it out of the water with that design.
Well,
I mean,
when they
because
drew,
all the Ditko's girls look alike.
when they drew Mary
I'm not-
Jane, but not her face in issue 25, she's, like, wearing, like, Aunt May clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's got, like, and she's got, like, a brag around her head, so, I
I mean,
mean,
this
that's
is
probably,
years
that's probably
before
how
you
she dressed when she would go see Aunt May.
Yeah.
That's why Aunt May thinks she's a good housewife.
So that's 25 that she first appears, right? And we're in 15,
Well-
so that's 10 issues away.
Well, like, not her first full appearance. That's her.
Oh,
like,
no.
hiding
The
behind
flower eating
flower.
her face appearance.
Yeah, the flower
Flower
eating her
eating her
face,
face.
and Liz and Betty, like, oh, not another girl. Speaking of Betty, Peter goes to see her at the Bugle, and Betty decides to rip into him by, she fixes his tie. Hello, Petey Weedy, here, let me fix your little tiesy wisey. Oh, cut it out, Betty. You know I hate being called Petey. And then Betty has, like, the most dramatic look on her face in the next panel. She's turned away. It's like a soap opera face. Really, Mr. Parker? I didn't notice you telling that empty-headed blonde schoolgirl not to call you Petey. Of course I didn't tell her. What do I care what she calls me? She doesn't mean a thing to me.
And this is actually one of the few times where Peter actually makes sense talking to a woman. Like,
Yeah.
this would be what I would say. It's like, I don't care about her. Whatever she calls me doesn't matter. She doesn't mean anything.
If this was written today, like in any other context, it'd be like, baby, she means nothing to me. You know I love you. And
Yo,
You know
girl,
I
she mean nothing to me, yo.
exactly.
Craven's visiting the Bugle offices because that's what, Mysterio did. That's what all the villains do. It's really weird because he wouldn't give Jonah the time of the day before, and Jonah's like, no, you can't do this. But for some reason, like, now Jonah's sending him after Spider-Man and saying it must be done by the law, and Craven's like, you can't talk to me. Like, why is he there? I
Is
thought
this
he
the
didn't wanna
same
talk
man
to
who does the Spider Slayer in like 12 issues from now?
And the Scorpion.
And the
Well,
Scorpion in 5
yeah.
issues from now.
Yeah, well, he felt guilty about the Scorpion thing because that was like his illegal thing. That was,
Yeah, because
in,
Spider
like,
Slayers aren't illegal.
in issue 25, I wouldn't call that illegal because it was just a robot trying to capture Spider-Man. It's basically you're trying to make a citizen's arrest with a robot. I don't think there's anything illegal about that.
If you look at that second panel in the middle where Jonah is holding up the pictures, etc., and Betty's, can you just hear the sound effect of Peter's expression? It just looks so
yeah.
sad. Poor Peter.
Peter's worried because Craven's all confident that he's going to get Spider-Man. Jonah doesn't care about his picks, and Betty's now like, Peter, he seems to have forgotten all about me. What can be wrong? Which, oh my God, woman, you're like, oh, Peter.
Yeah, you
don't
had
talk
it
to me.
coming.
Oh no, he's not paying attention to me now. What do I do?
Well, you just told him off a few panels ago.
Do
Yeah,
you
you had it
think that
coming.
like if like modern day women of America were reading this, they would like really hate the Betty Brant character?
I don't want to
Yeah.
I don't want to cast aspersions on Stan Lee's personal life at all, but I have to wonder if like he and his wife had issues, and like he's making Betty act as emotionally erratic as he believes his wife to be acting.
Well,
She's a
we don't wanna-
Silver
we
Age
don't-
girlfriend, though, and Silver Age girlfriends are only there to create conflict.
Yeah, but Marvel Silver Age equals Stan Lee. So when we talk about Silver Age, we're talking about Stan Lee's wife. I just wonder if that's the case.
I mean, we don't want to get into the whole thing with editors and their
Well,
things about marriage and
They're still married, aren't they?
yeah. No. Like I remember seeing like a video thing when they showed it. They talked to his wife. She really loves him. I mean, and this is like this is even after the whole voicing Madam Web thing. She's like really like an elegant elderly
She's
woman.
forever Madam Web for me.
Yeah, she's very what does he say? Who was that woman? Who was that vivacious?
Who is
woman?
that exotic woman?
Yeah.
And then like
Who's that lady?
and then Spider-Man's like, wow, that Stanley's really a great guy. And then Aunt May's like, I think he's like, what was it that man went? I think he's charming or special or something.
I quite like that old bastard, or something like. I think they actually said that in the cartoon. Yeah.
Well, Peter decides to forget his problems by, doing some awesome science. But, his hands are shaking again, and he breaks his science and spills it everywhere. Which
Science.
which
Yeah,
causes
he's got
Mr.
goofy
Warren-
looking hands.
Yeah,
That
Mr.
was
Warren,
really
is telling him off like, Mr. Parker, I'm surprised at you. One of these days I'm going to hire my brother to make a bunch of clones that are going to ruin your life.
That's the thing though. Like with like adults in the early days of Spider-Man, they never when something's clearly wrong and they don't say, Peter, do you need to go to the office? Are you okay? They just say clean it up right now. You better do it. Calm down, son.
Drop your pants and bend over for your thrashing.
Oh, that's
Yes,
not
sir.
good.
Whatever. By the way, Bertoni, whatever happens to this Professor Warren?
Mr. Warren. He just kind of fades into the background. They remembered that he existed in Untold Tales, and that was when they retconned that he and Professor Warren were brothers, because they actually did an issue where Professor Warren is introduced to Peter by Mr. Warren,
Gotcha.
and Miles Warren referenced his brother once or twice since then, but yeah, he's forgotten mostly. And then we have, Ditko's Anne Rain stuff. If you ask me, the kids are talking about Peter, if you ask me, he's all shook up since you told him you'd paste him one if he didn't stay away from your girl, Liz. You know what a coward he is. And Flash is like, yeah, he's real big in the gray matter department, but he wasn't around when they picked out backbones. And then Liz says, Flash Thompson, you've no right to talk about Peter that way. Anyone can be a loudmouth like you, but it takes brains to be smart. And then this one girl looks like, yeah, she looks like she just heard, the most philosophical thing ever. Ooh, I agree with Liz.
Yeah, they were doing that last
Liz,
issue
Liz,
too.
Liz,
It's kind of
Liz.
crazy.
Yeah, people so Flash continues to do the
Pontificate.
Vulcan sign at Peter, and he's too distracted by the newspaper, which that's a pretty big headline. My goodness, I know it's for plot purposes. And then Aunt May's trying to tell Peter that he needs to come in for some sleep or something. And he's like, oh no, if I die, what's going to happen to Aunt May? So he's like, hey, wait a second. I'll use my spider tracers, to find Kraven. But he can't even web swing to find Kraven because he tries to shoot his webs and his arms are too wobbly. So he's got to jump from building.
The webs look like it spells out Superman.
I see an S, a U, a
Kind of a P. Super.
I think that was intentional. I think that was a swipe at DC. Mm-hmm.
I'm just kidding. I don't know what it spells. It looks like an SUP.
There's so
something.
many forgotten plot threads in this issue. All of his first Chameleon hires Kraven, but then I guess Stan forgot halfway through and had Jonah do it. Even though Jonah and Kraven didn't want anything to do with each other early in the issue. Then he's like, I'm gonna use my spider tracers, but then he doesn't use them, and then he can't use his web because he's shaking, but then he uses it later on, and then spoiler alert, they forget about that fact that he's supposed to be sick until the last page. Peter's like, oh, I guess I'm not sick anymore. This thing's so all over the place.
So who do we blame for this travesty? Is it
I blame
you blame everyone?
Kraven's drinking his potions, and he's like, I will get the Spider-Man. And Spider-Man finally finds Kraven in Central Park, but is it really Kraven? Because as he's following this Kraven, tiptoeing behind him.
The face is a bit off, which I kind of like.
Yeah, it was almost like a mask.
There's another Kraven behind him. Two Kravens? What's going on here? But before Spider-Man realizes it, Admiral Akbar jumps out of the bushes and says, it's a trap! And then you still have to add the sound effect, John.
It's a trap!
So a net is sprung on Spider-Man, and then, oh god. And so the brilliant brain of the ace science student begins to work at lightning-like speed. The same brain that Flash Thompson has mocked so many times. The magnificently trained brain that, okay, Steve Ditko and Stan Lee are really obsessed with Peter's brain. That quickly comes up with the answer in the nick of time. I've got one chance. They say that a chain is only as strong as the weakest link, and in case you don't understand what he's talking about, they actually illustrate a broken chain for you.
Yep.
With so many joinings, there's got to be at least one weak link. Now, all I have to do is, I must exert all the pressure I can against each section until, I found it. One small section, which rifles back slightly against the tension, creating an opening. Now, by exerting maximum pressure at the very spot, I can make the opening large enough for me to roll out of.
Okay, just for the record, as a 6-year-old reading this, I understood the first panel. I got the whole weak link thing. But the art on the next two panels, I don't know what he's doing with that net. but it does not match what he's talking about. That's a really funky. I don't know. It's
Yeah.
weird.
Note, the sequence you have just witnessed took place entirely within the incredibly short space of 3.5 seconds.
Sure it did.
Wow, isn't Spider-Man
They're
amazing?
they're really trying to like impress the readers. Like
Another reason that Spider-Man is nothing like Superman.
Yeah.
that would've been, like,
So,
1.2
there's some
seconds.
weird fight stuff going on. Spider-Man sees two Cravens, and he's, like, confused because one of them is banging on a drum, which is meant to, like, throw him off, but
Dale. Dale.
it's
He changes mask to Harry Belafonte up there. Yeah, I love it.
Come, little
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
And then
Yeah.
they shackle him with these, like, chains, which have bells in them, so that when he moves, Craven can hear them.
It's kind of like a
So-
cat, you know?
Yeah,
He's got
so-
a cat
so-
around his neck.
So what Spider-Man does is he puts his web fluid in them so that it like short circuits the thing, and you know he's able, so Craven won't hear the bells anymore, which he uses to sneak up on the other Craven in the bushes, which is the Chameleon, who is no longer wearing the Craven outfit. He's in his like bathrobes. I don't know why.
He's in his Hugh Hefner gear.
You know what? He's like, Chameleon's like, oh, you got me, but you will not escape Craven. And Craven, you know,
Time a bell rings,
he's listening
Spider-Man.
for the bells. Yeah, a Spider-Man gets his webs.
There you go.
And Spider-Man uses his spider signal to freak Craven out and make him run into the woods like a little girl, because, you know, now Craven's plan isn't working. And Spider-Man uses his spider sense to keep on finding Craven as he's hiding, which Craven seems to know about. He's like, oh, he's using his spider instinct.
That
It
always
kinda
makes
goes
me
back
mad.
and
Like,
forth.
how do these people know he has spider sense? Don't
Because
play
he
with
talks
games
about
of-
it all the time.
Yeah, he broadcasts it.
Yeah, I think at this point, like, everybody, like, what gets me mad at this point is when, like, in Civil War, when Peter's like, how does Tony Stark know about my spider sense? Duh. He lures Craven into a trap, which he uses the trick from the beginning of the issue where Craven walks right into a web. And then he, like, webs all around Craven, so he's stuck, and he says, I'm going to leave you for the police. And he takes some pictures of the police driving King Chameleon away. All's well that ends well. So he goes to Jonah, gives him some pictures, and Jonah's going to pay him in chocolate bars?
When I read that, I'm like, what?
Okay, that's like, wow, you just took some. And like Betty, she's like hiding behind like her little like piece of paper so she can pretend that she has an excuse to be Jonah's office. Like, it's so wonderful to see Peter in good spirits again. Woman, it's your fault he was in bad spirits.
Yeah, I
You're
was
the one
gonna
who-
say the only reason.
Yeah.
is you.
Don't blame it on Peter. You were the one who was like, oh, you're cheating on me. Peter, I'm sorry for them. And I gotta do the Betty dialogue because one of the fans wrote into the show saying that like they crack up laughing whenever I do the Betty dialogue. So, you know, here we go. Oh,
Gotta make him happy.
Peter, I'm sorry for the way I spoke to you before. I had no right to be nasty to you just because another girl likes you. I'm not doing anything tonight. Heck, I promised Aunt May I'd meet that Watson girl tonight, but I just can't tell Betty. Oh, sorry, Betty, I can't make it, but I'll call you real soon. I understand, Peter. I should have known a girl can always trust her first instincts.
Oh,
just
poor
my
Becky.
John, you'll get this. Does that not remind you of like Martha Jones from the 3rd season of Doctor Who? Like she get like kind of weepy-eyed every time.
Yes.
By the way, he proves Betty kind of right, you know, because he comes home and he's like, and that Watson girl's probably a refugee from the horror movie. If only I didn't have to see her tonight. But Peter comes home to some quote-unquote bad news from Aunt May.
This is a line that Spider-Man's going to hear a lot when he's married, that Mrs. Watson has a headache.
Oh,
Hi-oh!
give that man a
Mrs.
cigar.
Watson's niece has a headache. She can't see you tonight. I hope you're not too disappointed, dear. And Peter, like, he can't hide his grin as he runs to the phone. Gosh, Aunt May, it is a shock, but I'll be big about it. So he calls, hello, Betty, this is Pete. Oh, you know which Pete. Oh, Betty, don't wait. No, don't hang up. Okay, if that's the way
God.
she wants it, I'll call Liz Allen with an E.
Ah.
Okay, so,
No!
like,
Oh,
he's
they
always...
misspell it?
Yeah,
Oh,
they do that a
wow.
lot, even in the modern books. It drives me nuts.
It is Alan with an A. 2 A's, I guess.
At this point, I think that the writers should just call her Liz Osborne, and then, you know, that way they don't have to, like, worry about A or E. But then people
Or
are
they-
now misspelling Osborne, so...
Yeah, do they stack an E on the end?
Yeah. Okay, so Betty's like, oh, Peter, you know, you're seeing Liz. No, I'm not seeing Liz behind your back. What's the first thing he does when Betty, you know, does this? He goes to call Liz Allen.
Well, you know, she
Yes.
broke his ego, so he's like, "Oh, she thinks she's."
I'll show her, you know. Yeah, he's a real stand-up guy. I'll show her. I'm gonna prove her right. But 60 seconds later, yes, sirree, that's some big crush Liz she has on me. Her mom says she's out dancing with Flash Thompson. Boy, with my luck, I sometimes
Dang.
wonder who's sticking pins in a Peter Parker doll.
And you know what
Huh?
happens after dancing, right?
Well, you know, Liz, who's
Horizontal
like
mambo.
35 bullets, like,
Dale.
big self-esteem issues because she's always going on about how dumb Flash is. Like, so she obviously doesn't think too highly of Flash, but not like enough that she wouldn't date him.
Yeah, she'll still go dance with him, and
Yeah,
if
she
this
still
was
go dancing
2010,
with
she'll
him,
still
but insult him in
have.
front of Peter. Like, Flash is such a chump because he's dating this girl who openly tries to, bone, this guy's, his rival, and she insults him in public in front of all of his friends.
That's what we call a bitch.
This is a really horrible relationship.
It's the kind of
Like-
thing you'd expect to have with like if the male in the relationship is a nerd, like their girl doesn't want to be seen in public with him, but she'll do him in private.
With his friends.
Yeah, like this is a messed up relationship. She's like in front of his friends, Flash, you're such an idiot, but it's like, hey, but I'll still go dancing with you tonight. Like, and then openly tries to bone people. Liz Allen.
No. It's not Liz Allen. It's Stan Lee and his wacky way with.
It's Madam Web. Madam Web. How can you do this to Stan Lee? So
It's all Joan Lee's fault.
So for some reason, the Russians are being deported to South America. Not long afterwards, the steamer prepares to head for South America.
That's really funny.
That's really good.
Like, it makes sense if you think about the fact that Kraven's a jungle guy. But I guess they're just putting the Russians on the first boat out of the country.
I love how Commander
I don't care where they end up. They're like, just...
That is funny.
But you don't even need a boat to go to South America. You can just, I guess that's one way to do it, though. Like, because it's interconnected with the continent. So they're talking about how they're going to return and they're going to hunt Spider-Man. It's going to be a hunt that will never end until he's destroyed. And as of the current recording of this, yeah, that's still going on. Like, the current plot is his daughter and, like, ex-wife or something trying to kill Spider-Man.
And I gotta say, in that last panel, I would bet cash money that Ditko drew that just as a coda for the ending of the story, and there was, I bet you Stanley just half-assed it with you. Oh, let me see that boat. Oh, I'm sure they don't have any problems to deal with. I wish I was on that boat right now for the the irony alert. But
I'm so tired of like the irony. I bet that this guy doesn't have problems. Like, you are such a teenager.
I am just not that lucky.
You have two girls who are both hot, who are both in love with you.
They both don't end up like he doesn't end up shagging them like tonight, so he's probably like, that sucks.
Well, when you're 16, it's all about the hormones and the next.
When you're 16,
that is Kraven's first hunt, and the chameleon's wearing his bathrobe to the
bitter end.
the Hefner robe, yeah.
Yeah, it's whatever.
Was Hefner like popular on the 64? Or was it the late 60s?
I guess Chameleon, like, before he went to America, he, like, had to educate himself on how Americans dress, so he saw, like, those 60s spy movies, like, the Playboy. So, like, that's how he thinks Americans act.
I haven't read a whole lot of Kraven stories, but I have to say that even though this one's kind of wonky in places, it's probably the best Kraven story I've read. Other than Kraven's Last Hunt, would you say this is one of the better Kraven stories, or cause...
It's not bad. I kind of was on the mindset that unless Kraven was treated really dangerously, like I kind of thought he was in the Spectacular Spider-Man cartoon, he's kind of like a joke villain. But yeah, no, he's treated pretty seriously in this one, and I can see why people like him. What do you guys think about Kraven generally?
He's kind of a one-trick pony. I mean, he can only hunt him so many times. It seems to be the similar stories every time. Kind of like the Lizard, in my opinion. He's a one-trick pony. He drinks the formula. Granted, they've started having him rape people this time, but
it's a
we never saw that happen.
But granted, that's a change of his character. But I really think they're bringing Kraven back, turning him into a zombie. I really think that's what they're going for.
Well, I mean, I agree with you. Like how many times can you have, for my honor, for Mother Africa, for Mother Russia, I must hunt Spider-Man. I mean, nobody's that stupid to do that like more than 10 times.
And he's so interchangeable that like at one point in Alyosha in the late 90s, early 2000s, they just kind of had him start wearing his dad's stuff and acting like, like Silver Age Kraven. And like to the point where like, you couldn't differentiate Kraven from his sons, like unless like they wouldn't even mention within the story that, by the way, this isn't the original Kraven.
Right.
It's
and
like,
they didn't even know
that's
his
how
father?
easy it is. Yeah, I don't think he knew his father. No, I think he was
but
like.
he acts exactly like him. That's great writing.
And then we had like the the Grim Hunter who was like the extreme Kraven, and like I've never hated Kraven stories, but like when I've gone in the Kraven stories, I've never been like overly excited. Oh, cool, a Kraven story.
Yeah.
There's been some good ones. but,
Spider-Man appearances.
Wasn't he killed during the Clone Saga, one of the sons, by Kane?
yeah, the Grim Hunter. He was.
He got caned.
Yeah.
That was like
He
his
got
second or
caned.
third story too. Like he
I
wasn't.
know,
he,
yeah.
he had- but he was like supposed to be kind of like Craven if Craven would use technology, from what I
The
recall.
dumbest Craven story I read was the one with I think it was a Roy Thomas, Gil Kane, John story where Peter,
Oh,
Gwen,
God.
and J. Jonah Jameson are in like the Savage Land, and he kidnaps Gwen and like wants to make
Craven's
her
there for some
his junk
reason.
bride. Yeah,
He
it's
wants
like
to marry Gwen, and he has a giant monster, and Kazar's there.
Well, he was a Kazar villain quite a bit. He had a lot of non-Spider-Man appearances. He
Wasn't he like
fought
in a Tiger
Kazar,
or
he
something?
fought the Cat, he fought Daredevil, a lot of different stuff.
Every
He fought
Spider-Man
Manwolf.
villain fights Daredevil.
When Manwolf was in Creatures on the Loose, he fought Manwolf.
In case you haven't guessed, the Mary Jane stuff was eventually retconned that because they reused the Mary Jane has a headache thing to miss the blind dates a few times in the future, and
Right, that's what I was getting
was they did a story called Parallel Lives back in the late '80s, and they retold some of those scenes in Untold Tales issue 16, which were both reprinted. And you hit the jackpot trade that came out a few months ago. That they told these issues from Mary Jane's point of view, and she was basically faking these headaches because while Aunt May was like saying, "Oh, this girl would so love to meet you," Aunt Anna was doing the same thing. "Oh, there's this boy and he'd so love to meet you," and Mary Jane did not want to go through with it, so she would
Because
fake
she knew
these
he was
headaches.
Spider-Man.
She knew he was Spider-Man, right?
Yeah, she knew he was Spider-Man, and she wasn't ready for all of this, so she says at the end of Untold Tales, if Aunt Anna pushes me, I'll just fake a headache or something. And then you see in Parallel Lives, which was published earlier but takes place in the same period, that she was faking headaches.
I was
And it's
telling that to my brother
they
like,
actually-
earlier this week. Like, he didn't. I was just telling him about for some reason I was talking about comics, and I was telling him about that, and he did not know that Mary Jane knew Peter was Spider-Man from the very beginning. And I told him about the whole she did not want to meet him, so she would fake headaches, and that they retconned that from the Dick.
Neither do the editors of the book, according to the recap pages of the Many Loves of Spider-Man.
Yeah, but that was...
Yeah. That's pretty stupid because I always thought it was a really cool comic thing for her to always know. And for him to say, "Oh, he revealed it to her," it's like, this is Marvel. Don't jack up your own continuity so pathetically.
When we get to those issues, we'll see how much it makes sense that she knows. Like, there's some issues where it makes sense that she knew all along, but there's Len Wein issues where if we're to read the Len Wein issues with Mary Jane knowing, then she's a real, bi,
Well, Jerry Conway is the one who wrote Parallel Lives, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
we should expect it to line up with his own writing in Amazing Spider-Man from the 70s. So I'll be interested to see if it does.
Has gone on record of saying that he was a big Mary Jane supporter. And then,
obviously,
there's one issue where, when Betty and Ned are getting married and Spider-Man shows up, Mary Jane shouts the second that Spider-Man shows up, "Hey, where'd Peter go?" So if she knows, she's trying to give it away.
Well, Conway kills Gwen and then hooks up Peter and Mary Jane.
Well, he did it organically. He didn't have them making out the next issue. It took 2 years.
But it was obviously that was his plot. I mean,
yes.
He wanted to bring Peter and Mary Jane together.
There was a Marvel team-up issue where, Mary Jane's looking for Peter while Spider-Man's fighting dinosaurs or something, and Mary Jane's, looking for Peter, and, Spider-Man's right there, and she, screams, "Peter, where are you?" And she goes behind the police lines and almost gets squished by a dinosaur, looking for Peter.
That sounds horrible.
Well, it's also Stegron the dinosaur, man. You can't have Stegron and have it be a good issue. It just doesn't work.
We lost George Berrian as a listener.
Yeah, no shit.
Now, speaking of retcons and such, there's a 1996 Sensational Spider-Man annual that expands on this story. Has anyone read it and remember it?
No.
Sensational
Vaguely,
Spider-Man from of Amazing 15?
But yeah, Sensational Spider-Man Annual 96 retells and expands upon this story. I haven't read it yet. I just saw
Let
it.
me see if
when I
I
hear 96 and Sensational,
let me see if I have it. Hold on, I might have it. I might be able to get to it.
The person who provides all of my Marvel comic digital copies, he's only gotten up to 1990, so I don't have a copy of this one yet.
Craven's First Hunt, right on the right on the cover.
I probably read it. I just don't remember it. Expanding it.
Yeah. It's written by D. Mateus. It's got a big naked Craven running with gazelles on the first page. Oh God, yeah. I'm flipping through this. He's hitting an old man with a cane. The art's kind of ass.
It's just a little bit ass.
Yeah, let's see.
ASS?
Oh, and then Peter and Aunt May are talking because Peter's like, "Oh my God, wow." Peter and Aunt May are having a really awkward First of all, Peter's got like a Joker, like a Silver Age Joker face on him as he's dipping Aunt May, and they're like dancing and getting all romantic. This is
Getting all romantic.
yeah. This is oh god. This is bananas. And then let's see. Oh.
Bananas.
Yeah, and then here's Craven getting
Bananas.
off the boat, and Betty and Liz, eyeballing each other. I'm seeing what they do with the Mary Jane thing here. If they hit you over the head with any more hammers about like the housewife thing. Wow, Craven's tripping, and he sees Spider-Man as a giant spider because apparently his potions are getting to him. I need to reread. Oh wow, he and the Chameleon are like.
Kissing.
Let's see. This is horrible.
This is like live commentary on an issue I've never read. And
I don't know if I ever read this or if I haven't in years, but yeah, I'm glad I had my box by me. I don't see anything about Mary Jane.
You must not have
Let
read
me
it.
see
I've
if
never really not forgotten an issue I've read, but
Oh, I have.
Craven is naked in half of this book.
Who was naked?
Damn.
Craven.
Craven.
that's the thing that like they kind of like retcon, like in the Craven's Last Hunt, he like wears like kind of thong looking thing.
Do
And,
you mean
like,
shirtless or do you mean naked?
like he wears not a lot of pants?
Yeah, they would.
Less pants than he should.
I kind of wish they would like throw that idea out the window.
So yeah, first Mary Jane referenced, although she doesn't have a first name. May thinks that she'll make a good housewife. Joe Quesada disagrees.
As well as
Retcons. Okay, yeah, this is, and I mentioned this before. Aunt May, how could you do this?
Mhm.
After
That nice Betty Brand visits you in the hospital, sends you flowers, socializes with you, and
Evidently, that gives Aunt May a very bad impression of her. I mean, makes all those efforts. Evidently, they have some really awkward conversations, and maybe she just doesn't like the fact that Betty Brant quit high school and went to get a job, and she wants somebody who's more reliable.
Yeah, so she can take care of her vegetable mother.
So this is
Well, Aunt May's
also
like at least, like-
this is the last appearance of Chameleon for 4.5 years. He comes back in Amazing
Wow.
Spider-Man 80 at the end of 1969.
Yeah, but he was in Hulk for a while between then.
Right, but I don't care about that. I just care about my Spider-Man books.
And Brad Douglas has left the call.
No, I'm still here.
No, it
For
was
those
a joke
who,
because you
keeping
like the
track
Hulk.
at home, we're probably going to get to that issue in a year and a half or so.
That's what you think.
Yeah, that's soon. Wow.
For number 80, yeah,
Yeah, wow. We'll be in like the Gwen Stacy issues by then, and
yeah.
Tablet of Time.
Perfect, irreplaceable,
stuff.
greatest love, Gwen Stacy. Now I actually read like the ultimate first appearance of Craven before I read this one. They're actually a lot alike. Like he comes in looking for Spider-Man, people make fun of him or something like that. Like I remember like when he went to the school and was like sniffing or whatever, and I think Gwen said something that he didn't like her.
Yeah.
It's kind of like this, but like in Ultimate Spider-Man, it's played more realistic. Like he knocks him out in one punch, which I kind of like.
Ultimate Craven started out as an Australian outback hunter in Ultimate Spider-Man, and when they got to
Right.
Ultimate 6, they converted him back to being a Russian. And it's
And
the same.
Danny
It was
Brand
Bendis writing
did it.
both, so I don't really know what his thought process was there.
His thought process was whoops.
So Chameleon and Craven are old buddies in this issue. It's later retconned in the 90s that they're in fact brothers.
They just don't know it yet.
Yeah, well,
Craven knew?
I think that Craven might have known, and like Chameleon knew at one point, but he kind of blocked it out of his mind.
Mephisto.
They later expand upon their background, and they had a really twisted relationship. Like they grew up together, but because he was the son of like the servant girl or the servant family, Craven basically treated Chameleon like he was very abusive to him.
Hence, Chameleon wanting Craven. That's why Chameleon says no one would be foolish enough to go after Spider-Man. Oh, Craven would. Let's get him over here.
Sucker.
I got a question. I'm looking at this, and this is it's pull the curtain back. We recorded the Clone Saga Chronicles episode earlier this week, and I remember Chameleon's appearance in that. And this one, this is his second appearance in Spider-Man right here. He clear on page 3, where he had the panel with him and the cigarette. He clearly has a mask. You can clearly see like a human, like remnants of a human face under that white mask he has.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he can form smiles or whatever. But later on in appearances, he has a weird looking nose and everything. And for some reason, in the '90s show they made like his whole skin like white and everything. What is? I mean, I don't think we ever see him under that mask. But what is up with that his like white thing? Does anybody know? Does anybody have ideas?
He doesn't want anyone to see his true face because he has like JMD Mateus went on his whole like riff that because he had a bad childhood, he doesn't have his own face and blah blah blah, psychological blah blah blah. My parents and my brother, who I didn't know was my brother, abused me. Blah blah blah. I wear a Hugh Hefner jacket.
The same
His
old story.
motivation here bothers me because he was clearly a communist spy selling government secrets, and then here, like, he's a gangster. Like, what?
Now that
What?
I've returned to resume my criminal career.
He
No,
is a
you-
gangster. He wears a robe.
You were a spy. You were working for the. Well, did Stanley? Did you reread issue 1 when you brought him?
Well,
in?
to
Well,
be
no, I
completely
can see that he. Okay, we talked about how that issue wasn't very clear if he was an American working
Yeah,
for the Russian.
that was very kind of like vague. It wasn't really explicit that he was a spy. I don't think it was.
I could see
was-
an American.
He had the
criminal.
communist flag and everything.
Not on
That was-
not
I
on
didn't- I
him
didn't
though.
like-
He was definitely working for the communists, but doesn't mean he was a Russian himself.
He was just a dick.
He was a criminal who hired out for a job. Get these plans for the Russians.
Okay,
Well,
maybe I'm too influenced by the fact that, like, I know in hindsight that he's Russian.
Right. Do we even know that Craven is Russian in this story?
Don't we? They yeah. Well, they ship him back to South America for no reason. But
I don't think we know that Craven is Russian. I think that's
weird. That
Yeah.
is such an integral part of his character.
I'm just looking.
Yeah, so
his-
So needless to say, there's a lot of retconning that goes along with this issue between Mary Jane, the relationship between Craven and Chameleon, their heritage, and, you know, so much, you know, gets retconned.
If
so
anything,
much
he
is-
could be he could be African because it says Craven is J. Jonah Jameson Rush is in the building, like on page 4 or whatever. It says Craven the Hunter is arriving from Africa.
So he could be from Johannesburg or something.
Exactly.
There was a really good line in the Spectacular Spider-Man cartoon where he says, where Craven says, or Spider-Man says something. Craven says, you know, I am bred from Mother Africa, born from Mother Russia. And Spider-Man says, like, you know, 2 mothers and so misbehaved.
Yeah, I remember that, dude. That was awesome.
No, I really like that. But yeah, it's I really want to know if they say he's Russian, because that's like I don't think that's something that should have been hidden until like decades later. I really think it's something that should be explained.
A
now.
lot of these villains didn't get origins and, like, you know, hair,
Yes.
like, you know, in these early issues. Like, it's
Well, the thing
forever
is, if you don't get an origin in your first appearance, you do not get an origin for 20 years.
Which is stupid. Well, we
You
got
don't need-
Electro's
you don't need
origin,
those.
and that sucked.
But it's
I
kind of
hate
the
that
thing.
origin.
You don't find out about the Chameleon until the 80s or 90s. You don't find out about Craven's and his relationship with the Chameleon. You don't find out. There were some others I thought about as we were going through.
Yeah, now it's
you know,
retconned that anyone that's in the Craven mansion has to be naked and, like, sitting in a coma. It's weird.
One thing I noticed that what did Craven actually do wrong in the issue that the police would take him away and deport him? All he did was he picked a fight with a dude in a red suit. I mean,
He was working with a known Russian, and he was
Yeah,
using
I was
potions.
about
We found 20 kilos of, you know, West African
I mean, what did he do wrong?
possession.
That's a good. Like, he could have.
Does-
He was acting like an idiot. I guess a good question. I don't know.
I mean,
They arrested
why
him for
would
that lion
Why would he
costume.
not go to jail? Why would he be deported?
The worst thing I can see is conspiracy to commit murder. That's the
Well,
worst thing.
how do they prove that? Like, maybe Peter had pictures that indicated him doing like committing attempted murder or whatever. But
But if he's a non-U.S., I mean, if he's a non-citizen visiting from another country, and he
But do we ever hear Russia, like, in the comics, talk about like what Craven's
no,
doing?
see that he comes from
Diplomatic
Africa,
community.
and
He comes-
Chameleon probably gave him up to the police.
He sold him out.
he comes from
Yeah.
Africa and gets sent to South America, so he's not an American.
If he's not an American, they'll send him anywhere. They don't really care. Oh, let's send him to China. That's it.
And then, like, South Africa, like, he fights like their superhero, so then they send him to they send him to Australia or something, and
And then he
They're
goes
just
up to
getting, like,
Canada
tricked
and
all
fights
over.
Puck.
Wolverine.
Very soon after this, as soon as they get deported, they jump ship and swim back. It's only like 2 months later that they show up on the shores in Tales to Astonish. It's
They
not,
literally do that.
yeah,
Like, jump.
basically.
Awesome.
And Craven and the Chameleon are both in an episode of Tales to Astonish, or was it Tales of Suspense? It might have been Suspense because Chameleon goes off, and there's the famous fight between Iron Man and Captain America, where Captain America is actually the Chameleon, and then Iron Man fights the real Captain America, and they reference that in the Civil War Iron Man Captain America issue. And Craven goes off to join the Sinister Six, which happens next month. So as soon as Craven gets deported here with the Chameleon, they jump ship and swim right back.
So I'm trying to figure out the thought process between like the quadruple love triangle, or the love quad or something like that, where you have, you know, Flash wants Liz wants Peter wants Betty wants attention or something.
The Hobgoblin.
Betty wants. Oh, and wait till Ned comes in. Your head's gonna explode.
It's just I'm trying to see if this makes sense because I mean obviously everybody's a teenager, they're acting like they're acting like however they want to, but you think that Peter could just explain, Liz, I'm not into you, you're cool, but I want to be with like Betty. Like it's like literally like oh Peter, let me fix your tie. That's okay, Liz. Flash is like, I'm gonna beat you up because of what you did, and Betty's like, how could you do this, Peter? I can't. Are they blind?
Well, what it is Peter's
Well,
trying
I
to not encourage Liz, but at the same not turn her away, because if anything happens with him and Betty Brand, he still wants some nookie.
I think that Peter, he's human, and after all these years of like the girls at school turning him away for dreamboats like Flash Thompson, I think even if Peter won't admit it, he's enjoying this.
Oh yeah.
That is a very good
fact that Flash Thompson's girlfriend is openly trying to jump his bones in front of Flash and the entire school, especially the girl that like turned him down. All those like that he's got to be enjoying that, Betty or no Betty,
and I think
like subconsciously he does not want that to end.
I think Wiseman saw this and read the same thing into it because they addressed this exact issue in Spectacular Spider-Man, that he's kind of playing the field a little bit too freely.
Yeah.
I really like the Liz and Peter relationship in that cartoon because
he kind of tries to have his cake and eat it too. He has study dates. I mean, he's ready to date her here. Yeah. There's an upcoming issue where they actually like not a date but a study date together, and and Liz is like, at last I have him all to myself. Mwah, ha 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 ha. I think it's the end of issue 24, and
then a friend finds out, she's just, oh wait, do I tell Flash about this in the next issue? So you were right, Peter and Liz.
And there's that story that was done. I don't remember who the writer was, but it was in Web Spinners, and it takes place at the end of the high school days where there's prom. And
Joe
Peter,
Kelly.
Peter basically he's mad at Flash. Yeah, he's mad at Flash, and he asks Liz out to the prom in front of everyone, and Liz says yes, and he doesn't think this through, realizing that he promised that he'd take Betty. So
what an idiot.
Yeah. And he says to, like, there's this part where him and Flash are about to, like, fight or something in front of, like, train tracks or whatever. And Peter admits to, like, Flash and Liz. He says to Liz, I'm uninviting you to the prom. I was only doing it, because I was on a whole, ego and popularity trip. And Liz slaps him one in the face.
Well, he had that coming.
Does anyone else have any, like, points they wanted to make about the story?
Not really. I thought it was 2 solid months.
Yeah, 2 really, really great issues.
Yeah.
I like the panel where... I like the panel on page 9 where Spider-Man's arm goes limp. It looks really funky the way he's punching, but yeah, it's good stuff.
Lots of, we met Norman Osborn. We got our first hint of Mary Jane Watson. I mean, that's good stuff.
These are all like have their tropes, which are kind of goofy, and the science it doesn't add up, but
right.
And we got the first Hulk Spider-Man fight that they will continue to do for 40 years,
including the Winter Olympics.
1980 Winter Olympics, yes.
Did you like that issue, Brad, when you read it?
Oh, dude, I had that issue read back and forth so many times when I was a kid. The Treasury issue. Oh, man, I love that one.
I don't know if it would really held up if you tried to go back and read it now.
I haven't read it in years, but man, that was one of my favorite books when I was a kid.
It might be like Voltron or something where you shouldn't go back and rewatch it because the memories are better than the reality.
Yeah, don't go back.
You can never go home again.
No. But this one still held up from when I read it when I was a kid in Marvel Tales, I thought.
Yeah.
I think the writing's gotten better. I think like the actual humor, like where like Jameson gives him like a chocolate bar and he's like, oh, no wonder I take advantage of you. You're all hard. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah. No, the vast majority of the issues that we're going to be doing for like the next year or 2, I think are still going to hold up really well when we read them again.
I honestly don't. I was rereading one of JR's articles and I kind of agree that I don't think Stan Lee really had like a low point until about when he starts dating Gwen regularly and like around the 60s, like the number.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, cause like when he's with Romita, I think the book's on fire. Like where he fights like Blackie Gaxton, Vulture, and everything. I love that stuff.
Right.
Not Blackie Gaxton. Blackie Drago or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, Blackie.
From Blackie. Because Blackie Gaxton went off to be the manager of a store.
Yeah,
Blackie.
I can't believe that. I remember you reading that, and I'm thinking like, and I'm like, okay, he got the electric chair. He rehabilitated and became manager of a general store. Influence.
So the letters page had a lot going on this month that caught my interest. John Butterworth writes about an article he wrote for his college newspaper that Stan really liked. It's called Spider-Man Strives for Status in Competitive Comic Book World of Insecure Superheroes. And they said they wish they could print in the letters column, but of course they couldn't. But I don't know, I think getting college press for Spider-Man is pretty cool. Ricky Kokorellis writes from Greece, which might be the first international letter they've printed, unless I missed one before. Poor Richard Kent. his first exposure to Spider-Man was the Strange Tales Annual #2, and that was a god-awful book. And he writes, when I first saw Spider-Man in the Strange Tales Annual, I said to myself, oh, here we go again with another silly superhero. Then I got hold of him in his own mag, and saw another, and he got hooked on it from his own magazine. But I don't know if you've heard that issue, Brad, or if you've heard that episode or read that issue, but it's some really...
I'm not sure I ever did read. Is it with the Human Torch?
It's their first
Team up
official
rivalry
team
thing.
up / Bible. I mean, because they
Yeah.
knew each other in the Fantastic Four like stuff, but this was their first like one-on-one.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever read that one actually.
It might be worth reading once.
It's very historical because that's where they do like the first Statue of Liberty thing, which of course has become.
Oh yeah.
In response to a letter from Nick Blackwell, Stan promises to use fewer continued stories, a promise that he is going to break in 2 issues. And it's funny because, like, continued stories become such the staple at Marvel, and there are a few times when they say, okay, we're going to do fewer continued stories and try to do done-in-ones. And it only takes, like, 1 or 2 months before they're breaking that and going back to multiple-part stories. And really, I like the multiple-part stories of the Silver Age so much more to now, because it's like you have 6 different stories that tie into an overall thread, as opposed to 6 different parts of one story. It's just the plots can get so much more complex back then than they do now.
And it seems like these early issues are kind of like Smallville season 1, villain of the week, villain of the issue, a little bit. I don't know. Like we had Green Goblin 14, Craven 15.
15.
Oh, well, these first 20 issues, it's all about setting up his rogues gallery a little bit, etc.
Yeah.
But there was the octopus thing, and there's going to be the Goblin trilogy, and then it's going to become the staple that stories are going to be continued from one issue to the next.
I think that the Crime Master 2-parter, that was pretty good for the early continued stories.
And then you have the whole...
And obviously the Master Planner.
Yeah.
Master Planner's my favorite Ditko story.
Then you have the whole Clay tablet with Kingpin that lasts for like 8-9 issues, something like that. I forget exactly how long it goes.
That tablet thing, I still can't believe that was put in there, because it's really like Raiders of the Lost Ark-esque kind of thing.
I liked it, but like it really annoyed me how they brought it back like in 2008, because like everyone knew that they were trying to chase the Silver Age again, and to bring back the Silver Age concept, that was just like driving the point home even more and more.
Ken Dixon wrote a letter that critiqued every appearance of Spider-Man to date. But of course, they only printed the very first little bit of it. I'd kind of like to read it, because he made a couple interesting points about Amazing Fantasy 15, and that's the only part they printed. But theoretically, he starts his letter by saying, I wish you'd have a list of every Spider-Man appearance that's ever been, and here I'm going to talk about them all right now. Bob Malasani was pleasantly surprised by issue 11 because he had never considered Dr. Octopus to be a good villain. I thought the Ock fight in issue 3 was really, really good, so I'm not sure what Bob was reading. And finally, there's the announcement at the end of the letters column that tells us that the Spider-Man Annual will be featuring Spider-Man up against the Sinister Six.
Yeah.
Foreboding. What's that going to be? Who are they? So that'll be exciting. We do have ads for Sergeant Fury #8, and this was a really cool issue because the very same month, I think even the very same week, they did it. It was a Dr. Zemo story in World War II continuity. But that same week, the Avengers I forget which one it was, #6 maybe, it came out. They had Dr. Zemo or Baron Zemo revealed as the murderer of Bucky. So they had the same villain being shown in modern times and World War II times at the same time, so it's kind of cool. And the other ad is for the Fantastic Four #29, which had the Fantastic Four fighting Red Ghost and Super Apes at the Watcher's home in the blue area of the...
Oh, that issue was so hilarious.
And it even got adapted into a Fantastic Four 67 cartoon.
Yep, I've seen that one. The best part is when like they land on the moon and they step outside and say, well, looks like the air's okay. And then, like, the Red Ghost, he's called the Red Ghost because he's a communist and he wants to beat them to the moon. So, like, it's basically, like, in this point of continuity, nobody's been to the moon yet. This is before Neil Armstrong. So, like, it's like the Russian communists versus the Fantastic Four to get there. And he brings along his monkeys and they all get superpowers. And there's a blue city on the moon. And, oh, God.
The science! It doesn't add up!
I just remember, like, being, like, 12 or 11, I'm watching that episode of like the show with my dad, and then when like they step out and like he says, "Well, the air's okay," my dad just like busted a gut.
The
And he
67
like wanted
has
to
a
make,
four
he wanted to make sure that I
cartoon.
didn't take it seriously. He's like, you know that like that you can't do that, right?
When we're reading stories, I'm like, okay, I know this is comic book science. In real world, this is how this would happen because there's no way this would actually exist. She's like, yeah, Dad, but it's comic book science. It's okay. Well,
Norman Osborn's plans will get better. He realizes
True.
that he
promise.
does not need to take Peter to Hollywood to,
but he does fake his own death. I don't know if that's exactly a good plan or not.
Well, no chance of a fatal error.
Well,
108 issues later, oh god.
Through the
keeping
check.
with the
I guess
Hollywood thing, he replaces his aunt with an actress for some reason.
That's where he met the actress.
This is not the end of Osborn's fascination with Hollywood.
Wow.
Yeah,
He
that's where he met
called
the
up
actress.
he
It was
called
on
up
the set of that
BJ.
movie.
Yeah, he did.
Hey BJ, get me an actress that looks like Aunt May.
Well, was willing to die.
Oh, get Tony Curtis.
I have her from the unknown thing in the Black Lagoon in the Murky Swamp. Well, I do want to say thank you very much to Mr. Brad Douglas for being on the show with us today.
Oh, thanks, buddy. I had a good time.
This is really, really cool for me. The Spider-Man Crawl Space is one of the first podcasts I started listening to, and it's been very cool for me working through all the old episodes. I'm about a year behind. I don't know if I'll ever get less than a year behind, but I.
What number are you on? We just turned 103.
Yeah, I know I've passed 50 because that was around the time of the Sam Rosen thing. I forget exactly. Oh no. I'm in the 60s. I'm in the 60s because 70 is actually corrupting my iPhone, so I had to delete it.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. I'm gonna have to listen to that one on the laptop instead of the iPhone because every time I download it, it messes up my library. But that's okay. It's not your fault.
Wait do you get to my episode?
Oh, the Spider Jeopardy episode. My gosh.
I did the second annual Spider Jeopardy. That was fun.
Nice. Yep. That'll be fun. For those, if there are any listeners who are not aware, Spider-Man Crawl Space is an excellent resource for all news, information, and various features that come out on a regular basis regarding our favorite web slinger. It is at spidermancrawlspace.com. No hyphens, of course. And Brad Douglas is the webmaster there. They also have a podcast that comes out usually 2 or 3 times a month. Is that right? Is that still the release?
Yep,
okay.
Pretty much 2 or 3 times a month.
So good stuff there, and I want to remind you, if you want to write in an email to the show, we are going to be reading those next episode. Email address is amazingspidermanclassics@gmail.com. You can go to the website for the podcast at amazingspiderman.libsyn.com, where you'll see the show notes, and I'll occasionally post humorous images. And I have an X-Men blog going, which as soon as I get caught up, will try to keep pace with this show, only covering the X-Men issues. So hopefully I'll have issue 4 or 5 up by the time this episode goes live. And we are on Facebook. If you search for Amazing Spider-Man Classics, there is a posting there of new episodes as they go live. You can get notified.
Do we have any special guests lined up for next time?
Oh, you know what? I need to go see about Michael, because Timmy never came back. He might have fallen in the well, too. So
Michael's doing a podcast straight from the well.
That's what it's called, straight from the well.
I want to go see
from the well.
And we'll have him on here next time. In the meantime, thank you very much for listening to Amazing Spider-Man Classics. Good night.
Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. Spins a web any size, catches thieves just like flies. Look out, here comes the Spider-Man. Is he strong? Listen, bud, he's got radioactive blood. Can he swing from a thread? Take a look overhead. Hey there goes the Spider-Man. In the chill of night, at the scene of a crime, like a streak of light, he arrives just in time. Spider-Man, Spider-Man, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Wealth and fame, he's ignored. Action is his reward to him. Life is a great big hang-up. Wherever there's a hang-up, you'll find the Spider-Man.
What's your language policy? Can I drop an F-bomb, or we no swearing? What do you like?
Network TV, so probably no F's or goddammits, but anything else probably is good.
Oh shit! Network.
If you
What am
slip,
I on the clock?
I have,
That's for real.
I have mad editing skills, so if you slip one, don't worry about it.
No shit, son. Damn. Oh damn! I can't even. Yeah, I can say damn. Fuck it.
Say
Oh wait a
damn.
minute, I can't say fuck it. Never mind. I'm just getting them all out.
Gonna be Brad going. Can I say? No, you can't say.
If you
Yeah.
feel restricted, I can put an explicit tag and
Oh no, I'm not
Okay.
Mr. Potty Mouth.
We got to talk about Jesus laser nipples.